Well, thank you for staying. Time now for the news. We get into our first story now. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, says his outfit will establish staff clinics to take care of workers in the medical sector across Ghana. He's optimistic that the establishment of these staff clinics will provide premium health care to workers across the medical value chain. Now, he's tasked the Institutional Care Division and the regional directors of health services to work out the modalities of setting up the staff clinics in the country. Rafiq Salam reports from the 30th Annual General Conference of the District Directors of Health Services Group at Drapa in the Upper West region.
The Annual General Conference of District Directors of Health Services Group is a forum where district directors of health services in Ghana meet to deliberate on selected pertinent health issues relating to their work. During the conferences, experts on the selected topics are invited to share ideas, experiences, and come forward with recommendations and a roadmap agreed on to take the issues forward, aimed at improving the health sector performance. The 30th Annual General Conference of the District Directors of Health Services Group, hosted at the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel and Resort in the Upper West region, is therefore not an exception. It was held on the theme Accelerating Progress to Universal Health Coverage, the role of District Directors of Health Services in effective network of practice. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, noted that despite a significant milestone achieved in exceeding the antenatal and the proportion of birth attended by skilled workers, maternal mortality still remains high, charging the district directors to up the ante in order for them to succeed.
And I must say that we still have a long way to go. We have about 2% of our children who have not been vaccinated at all, between 12 and 20. There are some regions that has as high as 9% of children in that region who, after 1 year, have not had a single shot of any vaccine. That is a district director's job, and many other more. We have an increase in nutritional deficiency. We have increase in the wasting, and I think it's not something good enough. After many years of decline, let's make sure that now the COVID crisis is over. Let's make sure that we regain and gain the momentum, and that is the work of district directors.
Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje announced plans by his outfit to establish staff clinic to cater for the health needs of continuous health staff and retired health workers.
So working with the Human Resource Division, I have tasked the Institutional Care Division to quickly work out, and the regional directors, the modalities for establishing what we call the staff clinic to cater for our own health needs, including retired GHS staff. And let me explain. You see, if you are working in Dr. Amesima's facility, you'll be taken care of by your GHS staff. If you work in a health center and you have a condition that cannot be managed there, then you have to come to WA to queue. I don't think that's fair. If you're in a CHIPS compound and you have a condition that cannot be managed there, you need to go up. We are establishing a staff clinic so that all staff, irrespective of the level of care, you have the same access to anybody, irrespective of the level of care that you are.
Acting National Chairperson of the District Directors of Health Services Group, Phoebe Balagu-Yentimi, enumerated several challenges they are facing, which included dwindling funding for preventive and promotive health activities.
Well, some scientists at the University of Ghana say Ghana's young men and women are prone to addictions like gambling. They say the youth don't think through the consequences of their actions before acting. But how do these behaviors affect their decision-making? Love FM's Kwesi Deborah speaks with the lead scientist, Dr. Thomas Tego of the University of Ghana Medical School for Tech Thursday.
The annual general conference.
The researchers identified people with behavioral evidence of pathological gambling and those with signs of smartphone addiction. They then performed some tests to find similarities or differences in their behaviors and the way they approach decision-making. The researchers found people who have internet addiction are also likely to have smartphone addiction.
Now, what we have known for a long time is that people can get addicted to things like drugs, right? And this leads to consequences and changes in their behavior. What we have also known for a long time is people can get addicted to certain behaviors, like gambling or using of smartphones and the internet. Now, the sort of consequences that leads to is what is not too clear, okay? Which is why we did the study, to try and find out, what are some of the consequences in behavior from being addicted to things like gambling and smartphones. So to do that, we went to some gambling centers in the Polygonal areas. We also spoke to a number of students, and we were able to identify some very interesting things. Firstly, not everybody who gambles is necessarily addicted to gambling. Okay? There was a significant number of them, but not everybody. In the same vein, not everybody who uses their smartphone a lot is necessarily addicted to their smartphones. Okay, so that was good to see. Now, what we next saw was quite interesting, because between the people who had behavior like gambling addiction and the people who had behavior like smartphone addiction, they had something in common, which was when we did a few tests, we realized that they weren't very good at thinking about the consequences of their action. Okay. Now, whether this is why they become they're exhibiting this addictive behavior, or this is because they're exhibiting this addictive behavior, we don't yet know. The other thing that we also found out was those who had gambling addictions, we call them pathological gamblers, exhibited some behaviors that were not so common in the smartphone addiction cases. So, for example, those that we call pathological gamblers, they were more risk takers, right? They take riskier risks. And in addition to that, they seem to be driven to make decisions by their mental state or like their emotions. So they make a lot more quick decisions when they are either excited, or they make a lot more rash decisions when maybe they're in a negative mood and so on.
Now, the deplorable road network to Agave Afedume in the Southern district of the Volta region is impeding access to real relief items to flood victims there. Now, this concern was raised by the Assembly member for the Agave Afedume electoral area, Christian Kwesi Voyeho, when the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana defied the deplorable nature of the road to donate relief items to the flood victims. Carlos Caloni has more in this report.
The road to Ziweno is in terrible shape with potholes, dust, and narrow passage. Over 45 houses have crumbled, displacing countless residents. Flood victims need urgent help. When the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, ICAG, donated relief items to the tune of 70,000 Ghana cedis, Assemblyman for Afedume electoral area, Christian Kwesi Voyeho, raised concerns about the road obstructing relief efforts.
Our road is extremely deplorable. Some of our sisters and brothers living in Accra want to come to us, but they found it difficult coming to us because of the deplorable nature of our road. The road is Agave Afedume Road, starting from Gradisco through Makoje, through Asidovi, Akplane to Agbeve. So we are appealing to the government to come to our aid and construct this road for us.
The journey to these communities was backbreaking, to say the least. The estimated 15-minute trip along the 14-kilometer road took the team well over an hour to navigate. Upon arrival, the team had to endure an additional 6-minute walk to reach the riverbank.
We are going to Ziwenu in the Agave Afedume electoral area, and it's because we don't have a direct access. The flooding water has cut the Ziwenu community off.
Your experience?
It was terrible.
It was what?
But it was a nice experience.
Following a thorough assessment of the damage here, the team provided hot meals to the victims along with mattresses, blankets, bags of rice, and more. Speaking to Joy News, the Director of Finance and Administration at the ICAG, Joyce Opoku-Dodu, explained that this donation aligns with the organization's commitment to ensuring environmental sustainability.
Looking at the devastating nature of what has happened, we decided to also come and do our bit to bring some comfort into the lives of these people. As an institute, this year is our 60th anniversary, and the theme for our 60th anniversary is promoting sustainability, nurturing trust, and building partnership. Sustainability for us is all about the environment. It's very unfortunate that this is happening, but what we can do to make somebody feel a bit comfortable, to make some people have a very peaceful sleep, that is why we are here, and that is what we have done. We believe that these mattresses will go a long way to help. The blankets will be used to cover the young ones who have been exposed.
However, Madame Dodu made a heartfelt plea to the authorities, urging them to address the deplorable road situation to enhance relief efforts.
We thought we were coming to a village close to Adei, but then when we started turning off the main road, we realized that we asked ourselves how many people will even drive on this road and come and give hand of help to our people. It's so sad. The road is so terrible, and if you don't take care, it will put you off and you go back to Accra with your things. But because we were determined to make an impact, we went through it, and then we are here. We are just praying that we'll go back safely on the road, and our cars will be able to get back to Accra safely. But we are appealing to the government. These people need help, and the help should be able to come on quite a good road. People should be encouraged to come. So if something can be done about the road, so that those who want to help them will be able to drive here and help them.
The assemblyman expressed his gratitude to ICAG for their benevolent gesture.
I once again want to thank Institute of Chartered Account Ghana for coming to our aid during this damage that the spillage has caused to the people of Agave Apeduma, specifically the people of Gojekota, the people of Apeduma, Asidovi, and then Akroti communities. We want to say that we appreciate the relief items given to us.
As the Akosombo dam spillage continues to ravage these hard-to-reach communities, it becomes paramount to prioritize relief efforts in these areas. Carlos Galoni, Joy News.
In our next story, a humanitarian group in the Atebubu Amantin constituency of the Bono East region is working to provide relief to the vulnerable in society. Spokesperson Patrina Impiwa says the group will also work towards empowering women with the needed resources to cope with the current economic challenges. Anas Abid has more.
Women are key actors in rural development but also face numerous challenges, particularly in rural areas. This is because most of these women are constrained by low education attainment, limited access to productive resources such as land and credit. Most of these women who are mainly into agricultural production are often vulnerable as they struggle to meet their economic needs. To help provide support to this vulnerable group, Bridge Friends, a new association, has been established here in Atebubu with the ultimate goal of developing resources and policies that aims at empowering women, particularly widows, to allow them have access to education, work, healthcare, and lives free from violence and abuse. Patrina Enchua is the spokesperson of the group.
As Dr. Adei said, if you educate a woman, you educate the whole family, but if you educate a man, you educate an individual. You know, there are so many women who are in need. For instance, at first, the education, you always relied on male. And this area, for instance, girl child education, we are lacking. So the men are well-to-do, most of the men are well-to-do, but some of the women are not. Even when you go to the villages, most of them are not working, even at Atebubu here. So we are here and we have formed each other to help. If anybody doesn't have any work and maybe we can give something for the person to start something, it's one of our aims. So we are ready to help everybody, but most especially women.
The group, she says, also aims at encouraging members in the society to unite towards supporting the vulnerable, including those living in rural communities.
We are here to let everybody at Ebubu to know that there is a group called Bridge Friends, and we have come to help the community. Even some of the villages too, if there is a need for us to go there, we go to the villages and help. And we will also visit the hospital, like not anything like monetary affairs, but anything like even talking to them, encouraging them, those we are ready to do it. That's why we came together.
Another member of the group, Joyce Sewa, says joining the association has helped her in diverse ways, and as a widow, the group has helped in dealing with her depressed life since losing her husband.
Loaning is killing the women. As she said, I'm a widow, I'm a single mother, I don't have husband, I don't have anybody, I don't have family. But if you join the association, you have a big family. They will encourage you, they will even help you in terms of need something. Yes, and it's better to join the group or join association, and in fact it will reduce the depression of the women. You know, depression is killing the women. A lot of women is the depression. So joining this association, it can help us a lot to reduce stress and programs so that you will have your freedom.
Bridge Friends Association currently has over 50 members, and today the association has been duly launched here in Atibu. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Atibu.
Now, in the heart of the Achimota School, an aura of confidence envelopes the air as they prepare for the grand finale of the National Science and Math Quiz. Undeterred by the shadows of competition, they stand poised, unwavering in their conviction. Their rivals may see threats, but Achimota sees only triumph. Jacqueline and Sumayabua caught up with the contestants for Achimota School.
Journey. We started off with preliminaries to 1A stage, then to quarterfinals and to semi-finals. We have some few days to the grand finale right here in Accra at the National Theatre. But currently I am here with the contestants of Achimota Senior High School, and we just want to get to know them better. So hello boys, how are you doing? So are you, Kenneth?
I'm fine, my God's grace.
Okay, so we have Kenneth and Walter. Walter, how are you?
I'm also fine.
You're also fine. Are you stressed out?
Not at all.
Not at all. What about you?
No, I'm also good.
I need the full pronunciation of your name. The full name.
I'm Egbajo Kenneth Bakita.
Alright, so Kenneth. I think I prefer the Kenneth. So your first contest, how was it for you?
The contest we had first, that was the qualifiers. Before the contest, I was actually tensed, but as we started the contest and I saw that we could actually do it, and then we're actually doing it, and we're able to win with those marks.
But didn't you see it as a daunting task on all of you, looking at the fact that you lost your seed? You were starting from scratch. Didn't you see that as a big task on you, or a big vacuum that you had to fill?
Kind of, but as we're progressing, I knew by God's grace we will be able to do it, and it didn't matter where we were starting from. We just looked ahead and we knew that we were able to do it. So, by God's grace.
What about you? How are you feeling, looking at the fact that it was a big task? Now you have to start right from scratch, unlike previously where you just come as a seeded school, then you're good to go. How did you feel about that?
It was a moment and a chance for us to learn from our mistakes and also build our confidence and become better at what we do. So I think it was a daunting task, but then we also took the opportunity to learn from it and became better.
What were some of the down moments that you had during the contest?
Well, the same semi-finals contest, when in the speedways, when doing too well. Yes, it was not comfortable, as he said. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how well are you preparing? Some few days more before the whole world is watching you right now. How well is preparation going? Anything that you want to share with us?
Okay, we are looking at our previous contest, our contest before this contest, and we are trying to identify the wrongs we did, the mistakes, and then do some polishes to perfect us before the finals.
Okay, what about you two? Preparations on your side?
We are trying our best, and we've got a very strong team with us, to our mates, our coordinators, and we hope that it will bring out a good outcome. So yeah.
Now I don't end my conversations without asking this question. You're meeting Opokuwari and Presec Legon. I'll keep on saying that Presec is like a 7-time champion. You are all champions. You've all won the trophy before. But do you see these two schools as a potential threat for you in any sort of way? Because you are coming in with some 41 points from the semi-finals. Presec is coming in with some 44 points, and I think OWAS has 38, I believe. Do you see any of these schools as a potential threat for you? Let me come to you, Walter.
Okay. Every school has good students that they bring for the National Science and Maths quiz. And with every contest, there are different outcomes. So I think you should just prepare very well and then go there and give off your best and see how it plays out. So I don't really see any other school as a threat. I just see this period as an opportunity to prepare yourself for what is to come.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, both schools are doing well in what they are doing, but then I think if you prepare well, and that's what we are doing right now, we're working towards that. Yeah. And if you go, we're just going to answer your questions, and you pray to God that you want to win, yeah. And also make sure you answer your questions and you deliver your maximum efforts and everything. I think that should be good. So I don't have to consider them as potential threats.
They are hopeful that they will be smiling right at the National Theatre. That is where we will be having the grand finale of the 30th edition of the National Science and Maths Quiz. It has been me right here with the students, the contestants of Achimota School, with their coordinator, knowing very well, getting to know how well they are prepared for the contest ahead. I am Jacqueline Ansma Yeboah.
Scientific note that we wrap up the news, but stay with us. Up next, the news review. Welcome back. Time now for the news review. You know how we do it. We're about to get into the most important, the most pertinent stories for you from the newspapers. But before we get into those, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Every morning around this time I mention their name. Why? It's because a lot of people are going down with prostate-related issues, fertility-related issues. And they sit and wait till things come to a head. You don't have to do that. Simple medical routine checks can keep you alive for a long time. And that's why this morning I'm proffering for you Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. If you're a man, you check your prostate once in a while, you've not checked this year, or you've never even checked before, just make your way to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They'll check you out for free. Mention the show, mention that you saw this ad, and they'll do it for you for free. If you're a woman, you are concerned about your fertility, and you want certain things to happen, make your way to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's where you can locate them across Ghana. Here in Accra, they are in Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. That's where you can locate them. Then in Kumasi, Chronom Abwehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade, they can be found at the Anaji Estates, and then there's Temma Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama and Zama. If you'd like to call them, which I suggest strongly that you do, the lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But joining us for the news review this morning, Maxwell Lukutor. He is parliamentary candidate-elect for the NDC in the South Tong area. He joins us for a conversation. Max, good morning. You'd have to unmute, Maxwell.
Good morning, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm okay. We're alive. We're healthy. A few days ago, I was under the weather. I'm better today, so I'm very grateful to God for that. How about you? How are you doing? And how are the members of your constituency, the constituency you'll be representing in the 2024 elections? What's the latest you can share with us?
We are not good. I'm sure your cameras have been on the ground. We saw a lot of them on ground. Some even came to do donations. We must be grateful to Joy News for the good coverage you are giving to us. And I hear you are also putting resources together to be able to hit the ground. We'll be waiting for you to come down. We are grateful to City News for coming around. We are grateful to TV XYZ. We are grateful to Wezo TV, Rafimes, Lukuze, Magdan, Latter-day Saints, Ibrahim Mahama, and the darling boy himself, John Dramani Mahama, who came first of all to give donations to us, to give to the people. We are grateful to all donors who have come to our aid. Yesterday, I saw Stephen Appiah and his crew through the collaboration with Joy News on the ground. A lot of people are coming. I've heard of several of them, but I've not personally met some of them. People come and they directly want to go to the people. Arise Ghana came, they went around. All other groups are coming. We are so grateful to them. On behalf of my people, especially in South Town, North Town, Central Town, and all around and along the river banks, we want to say we are grateful to Ghana, especially the individuals, corporate bodies who have heard our plight and are coming to our aid. We are so grateful to them. A friend in need is actually a friend indeed. We are so grateful to them. But the issue is that it is not over, because this is not a day's issue. Thankfully, the water is receding, because maybe the level of water we have in Akosombo Dam has gone down a little bit, and the level of spillage has also gone down. But it really does not mean that is the end of it. People have lost their livelihood, their cages, their nets, fishing nets, their workshops, their farms. So many things have gone down the drain, and it's not something we can recover from anytime soon. So we pray and hope that these things will not cease after a day or two. For about a month and over 2 months, 3 months, people are going to be distressed, because the hunger that is going to loom, or that is looming, we can foresee. Because when you go to give the little to the people who are directly affected, you hear so many complaints from other people who have not been directly affected, especially with their homes. But their farms have gone down. Their fishing equipment and everything is down. And so you realize that the pain is real, not only directly to the people whose home have been affected, but indirectly affecting so many people. So people should come to our aid. The critical thing we need is water. And please, if you are coming, as for the bottled water, many people are not used to drinking bottled water. We need the sachet water. It should come in drones and in quantities, so that we can give to every home. Every home is looking for water, because the water is bad, and we can't even be too sure those who are packaging around, except those who are using borehole water to do the sachet water. Those are the ones we can trust. But beyond that, those who are getting directly from the Volta River, we cannot be too sure. So please, if you are coming around and you are bringing water, be minded that we need more of the sachet water than the bottled water.
Let me just ask you a quick question, though. Quick question. What is it about the bottled water that the people do not like? Is it just that they're not accustomed to it, and so they, or is it that, because from where I sit, the sachet water sometimes, when they are kept in a certain way, because they are exposed to the elements, sometimes sunlight and all of that, sometimes they start going bad. I don't know whether you know what I mean. Sometimes within a short period, they develop some odor and all of that. The bottled water, it's much more difficult for that to happen. So I'm just wondering, is it just because they are not used to it? Because water is water, right?
I am not saying we don't need or they don't like the bottled water. I'm only saying for the reason of ability for us to get it for almost everybody.
So you're looking at quantity, that's why.
Yeah, I'm looking at the economics. I'm looking at the economics. If you buy 1 pack of bottled water, I'm sure that can buy about 5 or 10 pieces of sachet water. That can go around families, because even bathing the water itself, we are not too sure. People complain that they have skin itches when they bath the water directly. And so I hear Ministry of Health is bringing some tablets to use in dropping the water before people bath, so that it can take away some of the effects. So it's only about the economics. It's not about the dislike of it.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we use the bottled water every day, but majority of the people who are affected, who need water, might not be used to. And it's not that it's going to destroy or do anything to their body, but it's just because of the economics. I would prefer to go and give 20 sachet of water, 20 bags of sachet water to a home than go give them one sachet of earth.
I think the point is made, Maxwell. Your point is clearly made. In terms of today, for example, we'll be focusing on the health aspect, what has happened. We've spoken about education and how it's come to a standstill for those who were schooling in the affected communities, and now some of them are studying under trees because the schools that were not swept away by the water are being used as accommodation, for some of the people. We've spoken about their financial situation, but what is the health situation like? You've spoken about some who get skin irritations on the back of using the water. In terms of health, it's been said that because of the contamination of the water, there is a major health risk there. Are people safe? Are they healthy? What are the mechanisms that have been put in place? I think, is it the Minister of Health or some team has been around, right?
Yeah, the regional medical, led by Dr. Jokoto, I guess, have been around for some time, and they come to monitor situations that are around. The directorate is also on the ground trying to see the possible situations that may arise. I hear the issue of bilharzia has risen over the period.
Wow.
Yes, has risen over the period. And then these health issues will come up definitely because of the extent of damage that has been caused by the spillage. It may not happen immediately. After some few days to a week, I'm sure those things will begin to come up. But the medical team is on the ground, and I'm sure they will be taking note of some of these things. Those things are really looming because most of the places have been affected. And so health is a challenge, education is a challenge. We have so many challenges around us. Some places have been cut off. They have eventually been made an island. Yesterday I was at one of them. I had to cruise on the river before I get to where they are. They naturally were not an island, but because the road has been inundated, flood, you can't go through it. And so I could only go through the river to get to our government to be able to give them their supplies. And so children will not go to school because they cannot walk through the flood to be able to go to school. And like we saw in some of the places, people have volunteered to be giving their home teaching. And I'm sure if we get some volunteers, because schools have been closed down and some teachers have left to their individual places. And so we will need volunteers to be able to take care of some of these things within the communities themselves. And so these challenges are real. And Ben, I think that we should put our thinking cap and make sure that we resolve most of these things as quickly as possible. Most sectors are, let everybody come on board. I am not seeing or hearing from interministerial committee that has been formed by government. I don't know how soon we'll be hearing from them, but I think that this is the time for them to be on the ground constantly to help us resolve the challenge that we have at hand.
Right. Thank you, Maxwell. Let's get into the papers now. The Daily Graphic this morning, and at the tail end, I'll bring out some other issues. Bawumia cut sought for 582 projects, $150 million investment across 48 districts and 6 regions. Then there's developed mining areas deliberately scrap levies on exploration chamber of mines to government. Gamanye funeral, traditional rites reach fever pitch, and road contractors refute bribery allegations. There's also Damfa on the back page. Damfa community benefits from Aswim breast screening exercise, and President Akufo-Addo's alma mater appeals to him for support. All right, so let's get into the stories. The Ghana Chamber of Mines has called on the government to be deliberate about developing mining host communities and not focus only on the revenue. The chief executive of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Dr. Suleiman Kone, said revenue from mining communities must not be left to sink in the consolidated fund, but must be redirected into those communities to ensure development for the people. Taking a turn at the Daily Graphic Twitter or X dialogue series on the theme, what will Ghana lose if there were no mining? Dr. Kone said cities and towns where mining took place, such as Johannesburg in South Africa, had been fully developed because governments decided several years ago to transform that city with revenue from the mines. Quoting him, he says, If we don't ask these questions, and the focus generally is on revenue, which we will get from these companies, obviously the bulk will go into the consolidated fund and only a minute portion will go back to the community. And on that point, you go to these mining communities, Takwa, go to a place like Prestia, and just look at, the town has been literally pushed onto a certain edge, and it's all mining. But you look at the communities themselves, Obwasi and others, you look at the communities themselves and ask yourself, after all these years of mining, what do the communities really look like? Some of them look like ghost towns. And it has become, it's all extractive. But how about reinvesting in those communities? So that's the point there. They are calling for a scrapping of the levies on exploration. But let me just add the story on the road contractors, and then I'll come to you, Maxwell. So a group of 20 construction companies have refuted allegations by Professor Stephen Adei that contractors are made to pay bribes of about 1 million Ghana cedis before being awarded road contracts. In a release yesterday, the group said they had not experienced any such bribery attempts and that the award of road contracts were devoid of any corruption. Quote, "We wish to state clearly that none of us has had any such experience. Road contracts go through a process until the award is given," it said. Now, the group added that the process was well known and transparent and consequently made it very difficult for corrupt practices to prevail in the allocation of road contracts. This one got me laughing. Over to you, Maxwell. What are your thoughts?
Surely it will get anybody laughing because we are all part of the system, and that is the typical attitude of a Ghanaian. For instance, whilst going around to distribute these relief items to people, there is always complaint that there are people who have not been directly affected, they are getting. Those who have been affected are not getting. So I tell the people, if they mention anybody's name and then you know that the person has not been directly affected by the flood, tell us so that we will refuse giving the item to the people. They won't say. After everybody's gone, they will come back and tell you, hey, you mentioned people and they really were not affected. I say, why didn't you say? You say you want me to say so that they will victimize me. So that is the typical Ghanaian problem. These road contractors, we have all been in Ghana. We know the things that happen. We know the situations we face. These things are real. Plus, Adei, why would he go telling lies? For what reason? Some of us have been contractors. We know the things we go through. And so it's always a Ghanaian problem, always behaving like ostriches, burying our head in the sand, and then our whole body is up there. The truth, we don't like to speak about it to be able to turn things around. People always want to cover up the other people, and we keep going and going, and it's not the best. It is high time we begin to name and shame so that some of these things will go away. The contractors themselves will not be happy to be paying bribes to anybody to be able to get contract. But when these things come out, they shy away from the discussion, and the people who are at the top there keep doing it, and I think that we have to confront the issue head on. I like the spirit of some of our elderly people who are speaking up now. Atuguba spoke. This Nyahu Tamaklo spoke. The rest of the senior men in society are speaking. And I like it when they speak because they say that they are disappointed the youth. And it's high that they begin to speak the truth so that we can speak truth to power. But if we who are being affected are denying these things and shy away, or for political expediency, I don't know how long we'll continue to pretend. So it's a bad situation for us. Now to the mining community, yes, like you mentioned, we've all been to some few mining communities and we know the deprivation that we experience in these communities. They are not developed. They are not developing. You go to only the quarters of the mining company workers themselves and you see some semblance of life there. But within the township itself, the roads are bad, facilities are not available, things are not there. I don't know what arrangement they have in terms of corporate social responsibility so that nice parks could be built for you to go play, cinema hall, centers, and all those things. You don't see those things. The roads are bad, they're so dusty, and people fall sick out of the things that happen in the environment. The water bodies are so contaminated with cyanide and other chemicals. And it's live farms can't grow crops can't grow well in farms because all the land is so saturated with chemicals, and it always looks like a ghost town. And so, like he said, I think that government should begin to look at some of these things, and so the majority of the levies that are taken from these mining companies can be plowed back to the communities and used to develop them better, because they take so much revenue from them. And the indigenous themselves, the landlords, the landowners themselves, should also have some around them. But unfortunately, we don't see it. Even those who go to do the galamsey, they do it there, they go back to their individual homes, go and build big homes and develop their cities. And the places that they are there, taking the minerals from themselves are left wallowing in poverty and all that. So I think we have to begin to look at some of our policy directions and make sure that people themselves benefit from it.
Let me wrap
our
with...
place, for instance, water is being, like Agodome, for instance, that is where water is being processed and sent to most of the communities. But the question is that the people immediately around the place, how are they benefiting? The last time I went there, they were complaining that they still pay water bills. Meanwhile, they are the ones from whom the water is being generated. Some of these things we need to look at them so that the immediate environment of where these resources are coming from have some benefit to themselves.
I want us to wrap with the daily graphic quickly, and Maxwell, we do not have too much time, so I'd like bite-sized responses so we can proceed and look at many more stories. On page 9, let's go on the international front. Israel-Hamas. Now, Israel demands resignation of UN chief over Hamas attack comments, and Israel has reacted angrily to comments made by the UN Secretary General about the Gaza war at the Security Council. Antonio Guterres said yesterday that he condemned unequivocally Hamas's deadly attacks in Israel 2 weeks ago, but that it was important to recognize they, quote, did not happen in a vacuum. Now, the Israeli ambassador, Gilad Erdan, accused him of, quote, justifying terrorism and demanded his immediate resignation. Yesterday, Mr. Guterres rejected, quote, misrepresentations of his statement. Quoting him, he says, I am shocked by these misrepresentations by some of my statement yesterday in the Security Council, as if I were justifying acts of terror by Hamas. He said, this is false. It was the opposite. I believe it was necessary to set the record straight, especially out of respect to the victims and to their families. But yesterday, we had an interaction. My colleague Evan Spencer had an interaction with the Israeli ambassador, Shlomit Sufa. And two things she said. She said, on the Israel-Hamas war, this is not the time to talk about peace. If you know, the IDF has been standing on the border, basically awaiting the command for ground forces to enter Palestine. She says this is no time to talk about peace on the back of that attack by Hamas. And then how does she feel about Hamas? She says she's, of course, reiterated what Israel has been saying, that they are a terrorist group and that Hamas is not an entity you can reason with. What is your take on all this?
This Israel-Hamas war, Israel-Palestine war, it's been over the period, and I don't know what goes into the mind of Hamas when they go into attack Israel, because you should know that they won't sit down and look at these things without reacting. You should prepare for an equal reaction. It's like the third law of motion. Action and reaction are equal but opposite. So once you go, you should expect that Israel will come back and attack you. So I really don't know what went into them for them to think that they could just attack and go scot-free. It's unfortunate the situation we are seeing. Like they said, the time for talking about peace is past. Now it is action against action. Unfortunate though, but I don't see Israel coming to the table soon wanting to talk peace with Hamas. It's past. It's over. I'm sure after a while they may want to come back to the negotiating table and talk about peace too. But it's unfortunate. I really don't know.
But in the midst of saying all of that, I understand what you're saying. But in the midst of that, there are international conventions. There have been accusations, for example, of Israel using white phosphorus in certain parts, which, though it is allowed in combat, has its negative effects because it is highly flammable and it can burn, people practically to ashes. There has been talk about, we know the international conventions also, that you don't kill a fly with a sledgehammer. In other words, reactions must also be proportional to what has been done. We know there are some 200 or a little less of hostages still that have been taken. Some of them American, Israeli, from different parts of the world still being held by Hamas. So the focal point is this is a humanitarian crisis, especially on the Palestinian side, but in a subtle way on the Israeli side, because a lot of people too lost families. Some of the kibbutzes have been invaded and they are still in shock and all of that. But how do we resolve all of this without being so vociferous, if you like, or being so forceful in all of this, for lack of a better word? I don't know. You can understand the standpoint of Israel, but at the same time, there's a humanitarian crisis and life must be protected. Final thoughts?
Yeah, Benjamin, in as much as there are international conventions, sometimes going to war, you choose your opponent very wisely. It's always said that there is no fairness in war and love. And so when there is an issue of war, fairness sometimes is thrown to the dogs. It's later that they come back to talk about it. You should know who you are going to fight with. You should know what Israel can do. You know what they have. You all know what Israel has. So you don't go and provoke them. They will come back at you strongly. And that is exactly what we are seeing now. And so that's my problem with Hamas. I really don't know what went into their thinking for them to think that they can go strike Israel and go scot-free. It's unfortunate. Yes, there are international conventions to be respected, even in war. But we are not seeing it now because the people have been provoked. I am not justifying anything Israel is doing, but at the end of the day, I am saying that you choose your enemy wisely. I'm not sure Hamas did serious soul searching before going to attack the way they are doing.
Well, let's get into other papers now. Daily Guide, NIB liquidation claims force. That's according to the majority. The minority has dug its heels in on that bit. We'll see how when all of these things happen. I always say that with time, we'll get to see where the truth lies and who is being duplicitous or deceptive. Contractors reject Adei's bribe claims. That story we've already done. There's CJ bounces OSP. And there's also Baumia cut sword for $150 million Soko project. On the back page, Roma fined for ball boys' slow tactics. And Jesus charges Arsenal to win Champions League. There's also Vinny Jr. will soon win Ballon d'Or. I don't know about that, though. He's good, but I don't know. If I compare him to the likes of Kylian Mbappe and the rest, I would choose a Kylian Mbappe over a Vinicius Jr. But of course, there are different metrics that could lead to a win. All-Star Festival begin early preparation with global tour. But that bit about Roma, so as Roma have been fined 10,000 euros by Serie A after their ball boys, AS Roma, after their ball boys purposely slowed down Sunday's league game against Monza. Jose Mourinho's side secured a dramatic 1-0 win over that club thanks to Stefan El Shaarawy's winner in the 90th minute. Italy's sporting judge ruled that Roma's ball boys took too much time to get the ball back after the home side had scored the winning goal. And for that, they've been fined 10,000 euros. I'm just wondering what would have happened in Ghana. Anyway, let me take these two stories and then we can say goodbye to the Daily Guide newspaper. So, the majority in Parliament has denied assertions by the minority counterpart that the government intends to liquidate the National Investment Bank owing to insolvency and poor corporate governance. Deputy Ranking Member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Isaac Adongo, who made the allegations, said the government was colluding with the Bank of Ghana to merge the Agricultural Development Bank and the NIB, which he claimed could lead to about 800 job losses. Now, in response to the allegations, the Majority Chief Whip, Frank Anodompreh, said the claims by the minority were baseless and that the government had made no decision in that regard. The second story. The Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, has dismissed the petition sent to her by the Office of the Special Prosecutor to remove Justice Edward Chum from the ongoing case between the Minister of the Office and former Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Abnadapa, and her husband, Daniel Osei Kufuor. Now, although the full content of the CJ's decision is not known, the OSP in a social media post indicated that, quote, By a letter dated October 25, 2023, the Judicial Secretary informed the Special Prosecutor that the Chief Justice was unable to accede to the Office of the Special Prosecutor's request for His Lordship Justice Edward Chum to be recused and removed from all cases involving the OSP pending before him. Quick reactions.
Yeah, so about the issue of CJ and the OSP, it's a banter we have seen for long, and I am happy the tangent at which the OSP is going, and I just hope and pray that it's not a charade. At the end of the day, something positive will come up. We hear some of these things, and seriously, at the backdrop of the exoneration given originally by the president, I'm not too sure what's happening, but I just hope that these things are done in the best of shape so that we can get something good out of this case of the CJ. It's quite unfortunate what we see on daily basis happening between the CJ and then the OSP. I think that they should bring some finality to these things.
All right. Let's get into some other stories. I want to, and in fact, talking about the CJ, let me just reference some of what the retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Atuguba, has been sharing. He has said that the James Jachikwason decision by the Supreme Court was, with all respect, scandalous in that that court, in the teeth of the settled maxim res judicata et non quieta movere, re-adjudicated the same matter that has been adjudicated upon by the High Court on the merits. That's the first point. So he's had his concerns about that. He's also spoken about the fact that the executive's strong presence, the executive, that is the executive arm of government, its strong presence on the Judicial Council doesn't make it independent. And again, that the notion that the Supreme Court is politically tilted towards the NPP has some truth in there. How do you react? Since we're talking about the CJ.
Yeah. So like we said, the courts, we can't be too sure of the way things go. Sometimes we, who are not the legal luminaries, we speak our non-legal minds, but they will listen to you. They will just tell you whatever they have done is right. And so we watch on. So they say if the toad comes from the water to come to tell you that the crocodile has given birth, who are you not to believe? And so he's been there. He has seen it all. He was at one point the most senior on the bench. And today, if you see that some of the things that are happening are not the best, it's only confirming what some of us have said earlier. The Domahini case, for instance, he's spoken about it. Why do you go chastising Jachikwason, who has really renunciated his certificate before going to an election? How can a whole Supreme Court go to that extent, questioning or not minding a High Court decision and just go and take another decision? You speak about it, they will say you are not a judge, you are not a lawyer. The law lies in the bosom of the judge, and so that is what they have done. And now that Atuguba is speaking about it, yes, and he has confirmed what John Dramani Mahama has said earlier, that it seems to be tilted towards the NPP and most of the situations.
But at any point in time, any administration comes into power, there would be some tilt, wouldn't there? So we should get beyond the tilting, regardless of political, partisanship or political parties. Isn't that where we should get to?
Yeah, that's where we should get to. And for some of us, whether you are political or not political, the law is the law. You might have to be seen to be applying the law. But if at the end of the day, the other people feel that the law is not being applied, because what is the law? It's an exoneration of common sense, isn't it? The law is an exoneration of common sense. So beyond technicalities, the law is the law. We should all know what it is. So if you apply, and majority of us feel that it's being done because of one person or the other, then it doesn't really serve us the way we want it to serve us. So yes, we should go beyond politicizing the bench and making sure that people, like he suggested, people should go to the bench based on merit. There should be some independent body that promotes people to the bench. But if you see known political activists who have ever stood to be MPs on a ticket of a particular political party being brought to the bench, then who are you not to say that the bench is political? I get
the point you're making. What you said though about the law always exonerating common sense. I can tell you that sometimes that is not necessarily the case. The letter of the law may sometimes sound or appear not to be common sense, but that is the law. And that is that. He also made mention of the fact that, you know, in terms of seniority, when the Chief Justice is not available, the most senior, you know, steps in line. There have been some things that have been done here and there, but with time, I guess we'll be able to streamline that. We have to go in just about a minute. I want to squeeze in these two stories, very brief reactions, and we're gone. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, 6 secessionists convicted, 4 others discharged, sentencing deferred to November the 1st, and 6 out of the 10 persons standing trial for attempting to secede part of the Volta and Oti regions from Ghana have been convicted by the High Court in Accra. And those are the charges they've been slapped with. Then the Business Finder newspaper, Students' Loan Trust begins prosecution of employers. That story on page 4. And the Students' Loan Trust has taken a significant step in ensuring the repayment of student loans by initiating legal proceedings against employers who have failed to comply with the recovery of student loans from beneficiaries in the formal sector under the Students' Loan Trust Fund Act 2011. That is Act 820. You have some 20-30 seconds to react, then we're gone. Maxwell.
Especially about this student loan scheme, it's been so helpful to some of us. The more brothers who went to school, we had to rely on this to get to. I don't know.
But paying back is the problem.
Yes, paying back should be a matter of exigency. Because when I left school and I started working, I just walked into the office one day, dropped everything that I owe, and that was the end of it. The more you keep it, the more you attract a lot of interest over it, and the more difficult it becomes for you to pay. So once you make some money, you just walk in there, drop it, pay it off, and then walk away. So that you give opportunity to even your guarantor to be. Now I don't know what the guarantor system is do. I hear at the point they were scrapping it, whether it's true or not. I'm not too sure about that. So that you give some room to your guarantor. People suffered because they guaranteed for students who never went back to redeem the loans, and then they had to forfeit their salaries and this thing. So if the rule says that the employers should pay and they don't, yes, they can go after them and reduce so that other new ones of us coming after us can benefit from this loan scheme. It's helped so many of us, and I'm sure it will help much more of our younger
Maxwell, we have to go now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I love that passionate plea at the end as far as the students' loan is concerned. Do right by the Students' Loan Trust so that others can also benefit. Maxwell Lukuto is the NDC's parliamentary candidate elect for South Tong, and he joined us for a conversation this morning. Well, right before we veer into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment, and they're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them here in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronom Wabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takra De Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswe and Esiamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, bringing us to the start of sports with Mubarak Haruna. Do stay.
You're still watching the AM show, and it's time for sports. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Now, former Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah and the Wembley Sports Complex have reached out to the victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage in the Volta, Oti, and Eastern regions. The donation included assorted drinks, mattresses, and other food items. Now, Joy Sports' Nathaniel Atto has this report with more.
The former captain of the Black Stars, Stephen Appiah, and the CEO of Wembley Construction Limited, Mr. Robert Coleman, and my good self, Nathaniel Atto, have decided to come over and support his efforts here so that all of you can get some relief.
Thank you very much. Thank you. On behalf of my people, we want to express our gratitude to you, to Wembley Construction, to our icon, the legend, Stephen Appiah. We are very grateful that you have remembered us in this time of excruciating pain and difficulty. So we are grateful to you. God richly bless you. God bless all your endeavors. And I would like my camp leader to say a few words.
Okay. Yo, mi dakpe na mi le mi onu gbogbo yo mi wo fifi la yeta. Mi dibe enu ye maganye enu ike wanye fifi la yeko evo. Because enu ye jo fifi la ya menye enu vie onyo. Ame gbogbo onu ochi enu ye me. Eta mi de kuku na amasia me be no na mi pepele hu nyatenu adocho fu pepe yo me akpe na mi.
So he's saying that he is very, very grateful on behalf of his colleagues in the camp, and what has happened is really difficult, is untold, hardship is unbearable, but they are encouraged by your visit. He's also saying that it should not be a 9-day wonder, it shouldn't end here. He would want that every Ghanaian emulate the gesture that you have extended to them, so that you keep the support coming so they can survive, because they've lost their livelihoods, all their farms are destroyed, all the fish ponds are destroyed, all the shops are destroyed, and this is only how they can survive for now until they are resettled and compensated.
This gesture is one of many that have come into this area, but the reality of the situation is that people have been displaced and a lot of help is needed. The people were excited to see former Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah and Mr. Robert Coleman, who was even planning to come and construct an AstroTurf in this area. This is the reality of the situation, but at least this gesture and many others are bringing gradual relief to the people. Nathaniel Atto from the Roman Catholic School in Mapa in the Volta region of Ghana.
Great stuff, great initiative. Now let's talk about pitch issues. And Asante Kotoko head coach Prosper Natelgum says he's disappointed with the team's slow start to the season. Kotoko have 9 points from a possible 18 in their first 6 games, which leaves them 7th on the league table. But Ogum is confident the players will find their feet and lead the club to the top of the table by the end of the first round. Tonight, Europa League takes center stage. Liverpool welcome Toulouse to Anfield, hoping to maintain their perfect start to the season. West Ham also travel to Greece to face Olympiacos, and Black Stars midfielder Mohamed Kudus will hope to be in the starting 11. That's your sports. My name is Harun Mubarak, and have a good morning.
So that background. Okay. Yes. The application under consideration is anchored on a writ with the applicant calls to be issued on the 24th of January 2022, invoking the original jurisdiction of this court for the following reliefs. 1. A declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94, Clause 2, Paragraph A of the Constitution 1992 of the Republic of Ghana, at the time of filing his nomination form between 5th to 9th October 2020, to contest the 2020 parliamentary elections for the Asin North constituency, the first defendant was not qualified as a member of parliament. 2. A declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94, 2, Clause A of the Constitution 1992 of the Republic of Ghana, the decision of the second defendant to permit the first defendant to contest parliamentary elections in the Asin North constituency when the third defendant owed allegiance to a country other than Ghana is inconsistent with and violates Article 94 2A of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana 1992. 3. A declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94 2A of the Constitution 1992 of the Republic of Ghana, the election of the first defendant as Member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency was unconstitutional. 4. A declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 94 2A of the Constitution 1992 of the Republic of Ghana, the swearing in of first defendant as Member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency was unconstitutional, null and void, and of no legal effect. 5. Any further orders and all directions as the court may deem fit to give effect or enable effect to be given to the orders of the court, unquote. And the relevant antecedents to this application can be summarized from processes filed as follows. The first respondent was elected. Was elected Member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency on December 7, 2020. After the election of the first respondent, the applicant on 30th December 2020 petitioned the High Court Cape Coast and contended that at the time of the filing of parliamentary nomination forms by the first respondent, he held Canadian citizenship and was therefore in violation of Article 94(2)(a) of the Constitution and other electoral laws. The applicant sought various declaratory reliefs: an order annulling the election, perpetual injunction, restraining the first respondent from holding himself out as Member of Parliament elect for the Asin North constituency, and an order directed at the third respondent to conduct fresh parliamentary elections in the Asin North constituency. On 6th January 2021, the High Court granted an interlocutory injunction restraining the first respondent from holding himself out as the Member of Parliament elect for the Asin North constituency within the Central Region, and further from presenting himself to be sworn in as Member of Parliament for Asin North constituency as such until the final determination of the substantive petition filed against him by the applicant. A copy of this ruling is attached to the applicant's affidavit in support of this application as Exhibit MAN3. Subsequently, on 28th July 2021, the High Court gave judgment after trial in favor of the applicant and declared the election of the first respondent as null, void, and of no legal effect whatsoever. Further, the High Court granted an order of perpetual injunction against the first respondent from holding himself out as a Member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency. Aggrieved by the judgment of the High Court, the first respondent appealed to the Court of Appeal Cape Coast, seeking to set aside the judgment of the High Court. It is against this background that the applicant commenced the present suit and has mounted this application, deposing at paragraphs 7, 8, and 9. These are for the interlocutory injunction. So, but you've seen?
I get your point.
Yes. So, I don't know. This is our country. It's not my work. I can forward this ruling to you online. You can read it a million times.
The suggestion was that perhaps you had not read the judgment, so
yes,
you were being misled by other people into thinking that the judgment was not in tandem with the principles that you actually espoused.
Well, I wish you were here. My point, and this is sufficient for the point I was making, that the Supreme Court, finally they gave judgment on the matter, still declaring that at the time he filed, filed his nomination papers, he was a Canadian citizen, was not qualified, and the Electoral Commission erred in, so his election was null and void after that judgment. So what is the difference? It declared the judgment in the terms of this High Court judgment, the relevant parts I've quoted to you. I have that judgment. I can bring it to you.
No, I get that.
Yes. So I don't know, whatever. You see, look, one thing. That's why some of us don't move around, and the kind of politics that has entered some people's minds and changes their systems to such an extent that there's no respect for truth, morality, fear of God, anything, except to attain a political objective, fair or foul. This is the kind of mindset that leads to these sort of things. And I'm seriously against that. That is the trust of my life. Yes.
So you were not skewed? You did not misjudge?
Where? I mean,
you did not misconstrue?
At all. At all. Well, all I was saying was that they purported to re-adjudicate the same case which the High Court had adjudicated. In law, you don't determine the same matter all over again twice. The same parties, the same issues. And I think he was trying to say that their rate in the Supreme Court was about interpretation. That's why I say that judgment bring it. They went the whole terrain from the time he filed his papers to the time of the election, and the declaration in his favor that he was elected. They went all over that and came to the conclusion that since at the time of filing, between 5th and 9th October 2020, he had not received his certificate of renunciation of Canadian citizenship, he could not have been accepted to contest, and therefore his election was null and void. That is, so I don't know what this man is trying to say. Well, I don't want to use Heartland normally. Yeah.
I get your point. It just sounded to many people that he believes and he's of the view that no, you got it wrong. You probably did not know what you were talking about, and that you had not spent a smart time. And he kept on insisting that people should read the judgment, and that you had not spent a smart time perusing it, mindful of your competence in the law.
I'll bring that judgment. I have it. I can bring it.
But is it that people do not understand, or we do these things deliberately?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look, I don't like to talk about people, but try to know a bit about the political background of people when they are talking on issues.
Okay. And
you can see whether that background influences and directs what they say. I may be wrong. I've been a private lawyer and a judge for many years. Politics, I went into it very briefly and opted out because of the nature of it.
I see.
I've said this on platforms before. Now, look.
So which party were you presented there?
That time it was called Popular Front Party.
So there you have it. Former Supreme Court Justice William Atuguba saying the appointment of judges into the judiciary should be based on merit, among many other matters that he talks about. He also talks about the James Jachikwason ruling and makes certain core points. He also talks about politics, or the influence of the executive as far as the selection of judges or justices of the Supreme Court are concerned, and where their leanings could be. Well, joining us for a conversation on that, we have Kweku Paintsel, a lawyer. Mr. Paintsel, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join
good
this.
Morning.
Can you hear me, Mr. Paintsel?
Thank you. I can hear you very well and very clearly.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for a conversation on this matter. Did you listen to Justice Atuguba and probably everything he had to say? Have you had the benefit of listening to the full haul of it? Or is it just what we've aired this morning that you've heard?
Well, what you aired this morning together with bits and pieces on social media, but I haven't got the whole document or the whole presentation that he made, but it appears to me it's been broken down in various bits on social media, aspects relating to this, aspects related to Atuguba, aspects related, all manner of things. So it can't compare to, of course, having the whole of the presentation, but I've heard enough to be able to comment as appropriate.
Right. I mean, you've had a fair idea. That is good, because there are a lot of these bite-sized pieces that we've put on social media and on other platforms have been captured. But for you, from where you sit, what do you make, in essence, of everything he said? I just want a summary of your thoughts on what this doyen of the law has said, and then we can take them apart piece by little piece.
On the whole, I don't really see he has said anything new. Everything that he has said relates to matters that have happened in the Supreme Court, places and debates and various points in time, all of these issues, except that he has taken a different time and period to speak about the same things that occupied and dominated the public space. So it's really nothing new. It's just the timing. just the time rules. There were heated debates, except a few things possibly that he himself has revealed, which of course were not in the public domain. But when it comes to that, we can respond. But on the issue of Jachikwesin, on everything that he has said, which were matters that transpired in the Supreme Court or the High Court, there have been arguments both ways. I mean, and so in fairness, I would say that he hasn't said anything really new. Nothing new.
Now, in terms of not saying anything new, would it then be that it is because there's no novelty in some of the things that we have suspected, some of the things that have been bandied about, some of the things that have been said? Is that why you feel there's nothing new in there, essentially?
No, you see, take the issues one by one. If he takes the issue of Jachikwesin, what he read, being the fact that there had been a trial in the High Court that had reached a certain conclusion, and the matter came back to the Supreme Court, or rather was raised in the Supreme Court. There were heated arguments, both in the court and outside the court. And eventually the Supreme Court ruled. Right or wrong, when the Supreme Court has got a firm view on an issue, they state it. Either there is a majority and minority, or there is unanimity in decisions that they make. And once they made the decision, it's open them for public commentary. And like I said, this argument, I remember I myself on this particular program has had occasion to talk about my view of the matter. The Supreme Court chose a particular point in time, that is to say, at the point that he submitted his nomination, or he picked his forms. That's the point at which the Supreme Court said was the point to determine whether he had loyalty to Ghana or to another country. So in one sense, he cannot say that the High Court had already made a determination, and the Supreme Court also reiterated or virtually repeated the thing. Nonetheless, that somebody will say that Jachikwesin owed allegiance to another country was scandalous, or was for some reason, in his view, unacceptable. The court took a decision, which, as you say, came back to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court reached the same conclusion. Does he accept, for instance, that at the time that Jachikwesin picked the nomination form, that is the relevant point in time for determining whether he had fulfilled the requirement for contesting for elections, and not at some later point in time when he claimed or purported to have now renounced his citizenship? I mean, we have gone through all of this, so I'm really wondering. I mean, like I'm saying, he just happened to have delivered a paper at some seminar, and he has raised this same issue. But it's not as if he's not even aware of the debate and the argument that followed. He's just telling us where he stands on these issues, and that's why I believe that he has really said nothing new. I mean, come on, there are many things concerning. I mean, and of course, now that we know he's retired and now he's on social media or listening to social media, he must have heard comments about the fact that Jachikwesin himself, this is not the first time that he came to stand for election. So the real issue is, what is it? Or what was it in his mind that made him calm down? I understand that by the third or the fourth time. So at all those previous in time, what was he contemplating? Was he waiting up to a certain point in time? So you see, the Supreme Court, when they sit in a way, in a capacity as to stamp certain, their authority, not only the authority, but they must lay down very fair Jachikwesin, who come down every 4 years to stand for election, knowing they've not renounced their citizenship. And then somewhere in the line, possibly when they assess their chances, then at that point that they assess their chances that maybe they are likely to win, at that point. The relevant issue is at the point that you pick the nomination. Were you a Ghanaian? Were you a dual citizen? And so forth and so on. These are the issues. And like I said, with due respect to my Lord, if he takes the view that he takes, he's entitled to it. But I, for instance, disagree with him, notwithstanding the fact that possibly I've not reached the height that he reached and so forth and so on. This is not only law. Obviously, the law also reflects the politics of our country, and everywhere you go in the world, that is it.
Just hold for me there. Hold for me, Mr. Painsall. You just said something that piqued my interest. You say the law reflects the politics of the time in any part of the world. Can you explain that?
You know, there are theories of law in jurisprudence. We've got various theories. We've got, for instance, the Mazes theory of the law. I mean, we have that, but in particular, with reference to what my Lord said, we've got what they've got the American realist theory of law. The American realist theory of law is that judges are influenced by their background, their social surroundings, where they grew up, the schools that they went to, and possibly their political leanings. But undoubtedly, it is very clear from Justice Atuguba's own submissions that he has a political leaning. He was talking about PFP.
Hello? Yes, well, he did make mention of the Popular Front Party and also shared his affiliation with them. We're also looking at the political angle because then he made mention of the fact that the executive seems to have some influence on the judiciary in some of his comments. If I may read verbatim what he said as we try to get Kweku Pencil connected with us again. I'll just read that portion. Let me quickly find it there. He says, the notion that the Supreme Court is politically tilted towards the MPP has some truth in there. Mr. Paintel, are you back with us? Can you hear me? All right, so we'll try to get Kweku Pencil connected. Kweku Pencil, you were making a point and then you went off. You were making reference to the American system and politics. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the American realist theory of law says, for instance, that judges, when they sit to deliver judgment, they are influenced by their background, they are influenced by their political leaning, they are influenced by the schools they went, they are influenced by the society that they keep, and so forth and so on.
Are they also influenced by the law and what it says?
Well, the law is there, but you know, that theory, for instance, means that at the end of the day, what a judge puts out is a rationalization. In other words, a judge starts from a position of his views on a particular subject and then tries to pull the various authorities and the various arguments in order to justify his conclusions. That's essentially what American realist theory of law talks about. And that is the impression that Justice Atuguba himself is telling us. He is talking to us about judges being influenced by their political leaning. And obviously, everybody has a political leaning.
Yes, but to the extent that one's political leanings do not weave into one's reflections on the spirit, the letter of the law. Is that not the case? Political leanings are there, like we're told. Every man, every woman is a political animal, if you read the political science. Yet, in the law, you must be able to shed the cloak of politics and put on the cloak of the law and what it says. Is that not the case?
That is the case, and that is what ought to be the case. That is what ought to be the case. But even when we talk of in the advanced democracies, it's important we draw the distinction or even make those references. In America, there's always a quarrel about conservative judges and liberal judges. There's always. And about appointing, because they know the view. If you're president and you lean towards abortion, you know what kind of judges that you must get to sit in the Supreme Court and so forth and so on.
It is true. We saw that in the overturning of Roe versus Wade. But I insist that even the American judges, whom we know either come from conservative or liberal stock, still apply the law beyond all these things that we're talking of. We know the Republicans and their stance on guns, arms, munitions, and abortion. Yet we also see these judges applying the law and sometimes going against the very grain, the very tenets, for example, of Republicans when they are conservative. Kweku Pencil, we'll try to reconnect with him and get his thoughts on that matter. I just had to intervene there because he's making mention of the American system. But the American system, while it may be more aligned, if you want to say so, also has its own. Mr. Painter, so the point I was making, while it may be that we know that conservatives, Republicans, and their views on abortion and guns and all of that are there, by and large, the rulings reflect the law, what the letter of the law says, and sometimes go even against what Republicans would lean toward. How do you reflect on that?
Oh, that's a fact. I mean, that's a fact, because at the end of the day, we have societal norms, we have the law that tries is that situation, then there are various theories, there are ways of, ensuring that what society, at the end of the day, we make laws to protect, or what we make the laws to achieve. The judges must be able to interpret the law in a way as to satisfy what we need as a society at any point in time, because essentially that is why laws are made in the very first place. And therefore, like I said, the only thing is for us to do or endeavor to separate, do as much as possible to let our leanings towards particular things subside, so that we have the national interest at stake insofar as a particular law on a subject is concerned. And that's why even judges at some points in time may overrule themselves. We have allowance in the law for all of these things to happen. So like I said, the characterization that Justice Abtuguba is making of possibly leanings of judges, their political leanings, it cannot be done in isolation. It cannot be stated in isolation. It may as well apply to him, because, see, those are the silent things that nobody sees or nobody can talk of. But at the end of the day, when a law has been made, we try to look at the objective factors. We try to look at the decision that has been made. We try to look at the law. We try to look at the evidence that has come before the court. And then when the decision has been made, we can agree or disagree. There are only three things which will go into every judgment: the fact of the allegation that came before the court, the evidence that came before the court, and the application of the law to the facts and the evidence, which would then give a
All right, we're still struggling with this connection. We'll
it's
try
more
to
likely to be leaning towards what the law says or what the law requires.
Hello, Mr. Painter, are you there? All right, we'll try to get Mr. Painter back via phone so he can make his contributions seamlessly. Mr. Painter, can you hear me now? All right, so this conversation we're having is on the back of... If you can hear me, do go ahead, Mr. Painter. We lost you for about some 20 seconds. Kweku Painter is a lawyer. He joins this conversation. We'll try to reach him via phone to ensure that we can have a smooth, seamless conversation without all the hitches, so that we can actually have those interactions with him. It is on the back of former Supreme Court Justice William Atuguba, reflecting on our national life, talking about the legal system, the Supreme Court of which he was a part only a short while ago, some of its rulings, things that have been done, and things that he feels ought to be situated in the proper context to ensure that that third arm of government, that glue that cements all the other facets of our national life, stands the test of time. And he's also been talking about political leanings as far as the judges are concerned, or some leanings towards certain angles. Kweku Painter, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Mr. Painter?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right, please go ahead. You are making a submission, and then, unfortunately, we lost bits of it.
That even though we have these leanings and we are influenced by all kind of factors, where we grew up, the people we are associated with, when you sit as a judge, you are required to suppress those leanings and have the national interest as far as they are reflected in the laws that we have in the country at heart. And then what it means is that at the end of the day, giving an interpretation to a piece of law requires a combination of all kinds of factors, but at the foremost of every judge's mind or every lawyer's mind, as I've said, are three things. First, the allegations on the basis of which somebody is seeking a release, and the allegations on the basis of which somebody is resisting the release, together with the evidence that stands before the court. What it means is that you can have a very good case, but you can still lose your case if you fail to adduce sufficient evidence. And what it means, for instance, is that a judge cannot even help your case if you appear before the court and you begin to falter or unable to marshal the necessary evidence. And it is the combination of these two that the judges would apply the law. By application of law, we mean the statutes that we have in this country. We are talking of the common law, which is the judge-made law. The common law is the most fluid of all laws, because what happens is that the judges at every point in time have to make decisions and determinations based on the changing circumstances of the time. And what it means is that because society is changing, new courses of action are always arising, some of which have never been documented, some of which there are no laws. But once it's come before the court, the judges have a duty to do their best to give the best decisions that they can, having regard to everything that comes before the court. And so it's a very fluid concept. But so far, there's no doubt or there's a lot of certainty in the law, so that at every point in time, that's why we have concepts like precedent and so forth and so on. Judges are bound by their previous decisions founded on the same facts and possibly evidence, or same or similar facts and evidence. So at the end of the day, there has been no earthquake in our judicial system. We keep on having law. Once in a while, decisions are made that are embarrassing. Once in a while, decisions were reakoto and so forth and so on. But even the good thing about reakoto and the rest was that it was an interpretation of the existing law in place, which had been put in place. And even though the content of the law was said to be bad, let me use that expression, the judges did no wrong when they interpreted the face of the law to put those people in detention, which was what the law said. And so if there's a hue and cry about reakoto, for instance, up to date, nobody is accusing those judges of doing the wrong thing. They only interpreted a law which in content was bad or was poor or was oppressive.
Right. So they merely, they merely gave their interpretation of the existing law at the time, which judges are expected to make anyway. But in some instances, of course, they must expand it and look at the spirit of the law. So you disagree fundamentally, just to move away from this point, you disagree fundamentally with Justice Atuguba when he talks about the James Jachikwason issue and the fact that the decision was scandalous. You disagree?
I don't accept that position that my Lord has taken at all. I don't accept it. And like I said, it's only reigniting a debate which is spent. That debate is spent. And it's only telling us that all my times that we're having that debate, he didn't have an opportunity to factor in his views. But if he had done so at that time, we would have been over with it. So it is old wine in new, new wine in old bottle, if that's the way I want to put it.
I see.
Yes.
You say it's spent though, but is it without proper reasoning? You say it's spent? Is it because it is not grounded on law? Is it because that the sentiment he expresses on the James Jachikwason issue cannot pass the legal test? I just want you to confirm.
No. Let's put it this way: at every point in time, not only judges, lawyers, everybody. We disagree on all issues, and every time that there's contentious issue, it's when the matter goes to court. In the particular case, there was unanimity. In other words, the judges were so unanimous. When you read the judgment, there's no doubt the fact that they were the same facts and the evidence that my Lord is oppressed. I know, my Lord, there are two judges. There's one particular case that I did before him, in which, before the Supreme Court, we were the non-dissenter in my favor. And therefore, these things are there. Today's minority judgment may be the majority judgment another time. That's why judges are required to record their views in these matters. But the long and short is, once a decision has been made, in this case by unanimity, in other words, all the judges agree, it is very possible that if he was on the bench at the time, was part of the judges, he would have dissented. But his dissent judgment will remain for the record. But we must always move forward. And therefore, a dissent judgment does not mean that it's not properly grounded in law. It's only a question of time before possibly these issues may come up again. In other words, maybe 4 years from now, another person will go and pick nomination forms when he has not, what if he renounced his citizenship to a country, then he will wait about election time, renounces it, and then this issue or this debate will be reignited. In other words, at that point in time, must Justice Atuguba's view raised, or the judges will go back to their own judgment. And that's what it's going to be. That's why I say, but it's not out of respect for the views. His views are very solid in law. He has different arguments. He uses different ways to reach a different conclusion. And that must be accorded the necessary respect. But one thing that we all must appreciate is that once you're in a minority, you're in a minority. And for that moment, it does not even mean, for instance, that the majority decision is always right. There have been majority decisions that the same court, sitting at a different time, have, disassociated themselves from. It's very interesting how the law operates. But, that's why I keep on making the point that much respect to what he has said, but he's in the minority. I fundamentally disagree with him on the sole point that anybody can stand for elections at a certain point when he holds allegiance to another country. At that point, that's the definition. The fact that he subsequently renounces the allegiance up to the point that he is ready to stand for elections and whatever, with respect to him, is irrelevant in my view. And there's a good reason why, for public policy reasons, we must not allow, must not permit, we must not encourage people to do that.
All right. So
there are good policy considerations.
On this point, though, he talks about the fact that the appointment of judges should be done on merit, solely based on merit, not any political attachments and or considerations, and that does not augur well for the image of the judiciary. And as far as the apex court, now there have been claims about people with many political, even partisan colorations who have contested for X or Y party before, now being appointed justices of, the courts. And he finds that problematic. Do you find it as problematic as he does, considering that we are all political animals?
The problem about this country, including Justice Atuguba himself, and let me be very pointed, we all know that is the criteria. In fact, in our constitution, in everything that we have, there's no other criteria but the fact that a judge must be above reproach. A judge must not have force. A judge must meet the merits, and so forth and so on. And therefore, if at any point in time you raise this kind of issue, as ex-President Mahama has been doing in recent times, you must come out with the facts. Tell us the evidence that you have to show that we are not doing that. You see, the big problem I personally have in this country is that we make big statements. You are journalists. In other jurisdictions, we have something we call fact-checking, or what they call fact-checking. You check facts. You make an allegation, and you provide the evidence. Mahama said over 200 or so judges have a very sweeping statement. He could not isolate one judge to say that this judge was appointed for his political leaning. And these allegations, in my view, are scandalous in the sense that we make very general statements without proof of any of it, which means that we are all hypocrites as a country.
Let me just interject here. I'm sorry, pardon me, but let's say this person, for example, has stood as a candidate for a political party, wanting to become member of parliament, or has held some position, or has wanted to be in top leadership of the party, whether regionally, at the constituency level or at the national level, okay? So this is someone who is a known figure within the party while being a lawyer. And this person is appointed to any of these courts as a judge. Is that right? And let me also link that to some studies that have been conducted, which suggest that indeed the rulings of our courts, the higher courts, seem to express some leanings towards the appointor or which administration appointed them. How do you react to that?
I'll put it this way. It is only in Ghana that we have raised these arguments beyond the pale. I'll put it this way. One of the brightest judges on the Supreme Court, more proficient, writing more judgments than possibly any of the judges in the Supreme Court, is my mate. He's called Justice Kwama.
Oh,
he was the
right.
General Secretary for Political Party. He was brought to the bench by the NDC. But all judges are unanimous that he is delivering beyond what is normally even expected of an ordinary judge. He is virtually leading in the writing of judgment. I'm not saying other judges, and nobody taxed him with any political leaning. That is what ought to be. I sit here, let me tell you what, I'm sympathetic towards the MPP, and everybody knows. But if I become a judge, which I never want to be, with due respect, I have enough conscience to know what to deliver to this country as a country. And see, the kind of interpretations and the kind of drawings and the kind of symmetries that people have drawn between judges, previous political leanings, and their judgment. I do not know whether it is a science and not a coincidence. Because I have our views on every subject. We disagree. You never saw two lawyers agree on any issue, but a judge will eventually make a determination. And then it goes through the science. In other words, from the High Court, even when you come out magistrate court, then depending, it comes to Circuit Court, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. I mean, there are times that we believe a particular judge is biased and so forth and so on. But when you're going up, you cannot really accuse of all the judges of being biased, all the judges of being whatever.
And that actually reminds me of Justice Bafo Boni, brought in by the MPP administration, so to speak, because it was during that tenure. But when it came to the election petition, he actually was one of those voices that led to the decision that was arrived at, retaining President Mahama as leader of this country, if you recall. And at that time, I do recall that some people felt aggrieved, stating that, well, it was the other party that had brought him in, and his decision should have counted on that side. But that was not the case. So at least we have example as well, ample example of those who have come in from one administration or appointed by an administration, but who have not necessarily toed the line of any thinking specifically leaning to that administration. And you've mentioned as well that if you ever became a judge, you would have enough good conscience to rule in the interest of the country, which is paramount. So I believe... Go ahead.
If you haven't said that, let me push in something. For instance, the paper that my Lord Justice delivered was supposed to be a reflection and comment on the judiciary. Is it suggesting to us as Ghanaians that he never found one good thing that the Supreme Court has done over the period to cite, to balance everything that he said? Why must he concentrate his fire on all the things that he disagreed with the Supreme Court? Is he suggesting that? So this is a reflection of the fact, with due respect to him, that his presentation, in my honest view, was not balanced.
What?
Was not balanced. You cannot.
It was not balanced.
Yes, because you cannot be part of the Supreme Court which you have left, and when you have an opportunity to talk about the work that it does, all that you do is to cite all the negative things that, in your view, reflect poorly on it. Is it suggesting to Ghanaians that it's only the wrong things that he sees in a presentation to a country about the performance of the highest court of the land?
Someone would also suggest, I mean, we have the creation of certain courts, descending to the lowest levels to enhance, the delivery of justice. We have the use of, virtual avenues, so many developments, technology and all of that have enhanced the law. But some would say that those are things that are already in place, fast-tracking judgments and all of that. Those are things that are positive but are already in place. So to tackle the other issues, we need to see a highlighting of the negatives, which is what he did. I've heard that argument as well. Don't you feel that was what he was doing?
You see, that does not reflect well on us as a people. You are a retired Supreme Court judge. You are a statesman for that matter. And when you come to present a paper on the role of the Supreme Court in our present dispensation, please, in fairness, find one good thing that they have done. And please, we are not talking about these logistical, administrative things, burdens, and whatever. We're talking, he was analyzing the content of judgments that they have delivered over the period. Does he read only the ones that have negative things to do? Are we so, this reflects very poorly on all of us as Ghanaians. That when you get off to criticize somebody or you talk about somebody, all that you can do is to say the wrong thing the person has done.
But that also brings to mind a few things. I remember, for example, when Sophia Kufo, who actually was a Chief Justice at a point, also, when given the opportunity on some matters, seemed to have suggested, not just with the pensioner bondholders, that certain things were not going well. So it makes me wonder, is it that when you are there, and of course you must exercise decorum, you must reflect before you speak, but is it that when you're at that level, there are certain ills, malaises in there that you cannot speak of, yet you only have to get out through retirement before you can espouse those views? I mean, when he talks, for example, about the fact that he puts forth a reasoning, his decision on this James Jachikwason case, and after that, for about 6 months, he is not impaneled, which is not what usually would have happened, and that there's politics at play. Can you begrudge him?
I want to draw the distinction. When you are a judge, you are not gagged, but in fairness to your job as a neutral judge, there are many, many, many things a judge ought not to do. A judge cannot do. You cannot comment on social issues. You cannot comment about whatever issues you have are yours. But once you come out, you are freed from that bondage, if I may put it as bondage. And then you are free to comment and talk anyhow, reflect your position on matters. By my problem that I have with the presentation done was that you had a golden opportunity to assess the work of an institution of which you were part. This is ex post facto, after the event. You are no longer a judge, so you are free. And I expected that he would devote one paragraph to one good thing he believed the Supreme Court is doing well, by way of shining light in a dark spot. But all that he does is to bring us negative things. And when I listen to him and I hear him the way he made the presentation, which is all over the place, it's like that institution may possibly even be killed. And when you do that kind of thing, you raise prejudice against a vital institution that we have in this country. Right.
So you feel it wasn't balanced. It may also stem from the tide. He actually reflects something that I have also read and been told about, that this country at its independence was dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and that the expectations were so high, but that we have been faced with mishaps. He says here, against this background, where Ghana stands now is a cause for grave lamentation. And then he goes on to talk about Ghana being heavily blessed in terms of natural and human resources. Yes, for example, now facing this economic and social hardship and turmoil. But having situated that, I also want you to look at this. The Judicial Council. He points to the fact that the strong presence of the executive arm of government, the executive branch of government, on the Judicial Council doesn't make it independent. What's your reading of that? Do you agree with him?
The very interesting part of most of his presentation was that he was only reflecting and commenting upon things that we Ghanaians chose ourselves consciously. Because he's talking about constitutionalism and all of that.
But wait. So when you say chose, I'm sorry I have to interject, but sometimes I need clarity. Chose intentionally, you are referring to the Constitution, right?
That is so.
Okay, but the Constitution, I mean, we are all, unless you're one of those who feel nothing is wrong with the Constitution and has to be changed, there has been a lot of debate, even on the back of the 2010, Constitutional Review Commission. So if you look at it, while it may be there in black and white, are these things we ought to be looking at changing? You can reflect on your earlier point and then get to that as well.
No, I agree with you, but you see, the real point I'm making is that, beginning from 1960, we chose a purely presidential system of government, and then it collapsed. Then we brought parliamentary system of government. Then that also collapsed. Then we chose a hybrid of presidential and parliamentary, which has been carried into the 1992 Constitution. Some people got the feeling and the impression that if the president had an opportunity to have some of his ministers also in parliament, then of course it would feed upon his, interaction, involvement with parliament and so forth. That was an idea that we thought as Ghanaians that was brilliant. And that was an attempt to, for instance, I've always reflected that if we were, for instance, having a parliamentary system of government, as it is done in Britain, where the prime minister's questions, I'm really wondering whether, for instance, our president, if he was a prime minister, he would really have the energy and the time and everything to be going to parliament to answer parliamentary questions and stuff and so forth and so on. In an African setting. So therefore, if anybody after all these years comes to a position that, the way we're operating this thing is not working fine, and we think that it must be done this way, it's a fair point.
Yes, but I'm asking you on that same point. Do you feel it creates some problems for the system, and it's something that ought to be looked at? You as a lawyer, what is your thinking on that?
I will put it very bluntly that the system of legislative independence, in the sense that all parliamentarians must be parliamentarians and play no executive role in the executive side of government, is one that possibly may not work too well for an African country like Ghana. And I believe that the interaction between the president and parliament in terms of some of members of parliament being ministers and so forth, I think for me has worked so well. At the end of the day, it is not the idea of strict independence. At the end of the day, whether independence or not, we must work out what we call a system of checks and balances, so that within the uniqueness of the Constitution that we have, we may begin to look at putting in structures that will ensure that even though they still remain on the executive side of things, Parliament as a whole will be able to work in a way as to complement or not to complement the president, but for the interest of Ghanaians as a whole. Because, there were good reasons why we chose that. And the fact that we worked for it up to this point, nobody has given me a good reason. You see, when you talk of parliamentary independence, what is parliamentary independence supposed to work for us as a country? It is what we derive from that independence. This is what, at the end of the day, we are looking about. Because, see, when you look at the American system, the way it works, I'm not too sure any country has been able to replicate it in the same content as they have it there. And what we have is a unique Ghanaian setting. And it is within the uniqueness of what we have that we must begin to learn, based on the lessons we have learned so far, how to make it work better because of the changing circumstances of the time. But if parliamentary independence is intended to mean that we must have a strict separation of parliament from executive, I'm afraid that I don't really believe that doing that by itself will solve the kind of developmental issues and problems that we have as a country.
Right.
So yes, I've answered that the system we have is not bad.
Right.
We have to look at what changes we need to bring. That is what I think.
Let's wrap on these few points. We have just a few minutes, very limited time. I want you to squeeze in. He talks about the fact that the most senior justice of the Supreme Court, in the absence of the Chief Justice, should act in his stead. And you know why he is saying that. But he also talks about ethnocentrism or ethnicity and cronyism not being benchmarks for selecting judges. And he disagrees with any such selections if they are based on those. He disagrees with former President Mahama only, as far as this judicial thing is concerned, only in terms of the partisan balance that has been threatened. That, look, you people also, make yourselves available for these positions so that you can occupy these positions. That partisan balance is not something that will augur well for the country. I'll not get into the Galamsey bit because it will take us away from the main point. What is your reflection in essence then on these points and how moving forward we can sanitize, so to speak, our judicial system? Because if it works for Ghana, and if it doesn't, we all know in the past what that has led to. Those will be the final areas I want you to reflect on as we cap off this conversation.
It's very difficult to disagree with people, with what they claim is not right and whatever. That's not the issue for us as Ghanaians. There are many areas of our life, both political, even I myself have massive problems with the judiciary. I have massive problems with the General Legal Council. I have massive problems with our areas of politics and so forth and so on. But the real issue is, having identified the problem, what is the solution? What do you specifically propose? Those are the battle of ideas. That's what we are fighting for. Because, people have different ways of reaching the same goal. So all that we have to do is to fight and to list all the ills in the society. Come on, we can spend one complete week just listening them one by one and will not have ended. But the real issue is we take the problem.
Okay.
Like, for instance, this is independence of judiciary, independence of legislature and executive. What is his specific proposal? We had the 1960, we had the 69, we had the 79, we had the 92. All of them went about this issue and tweaked it in various ways to reach where we are.
Right.
He has had the benefit of sitting in the Supreme Court, going through all these constitutions, looking at what goes on in other countries. He should come up with a formula.
All right.
Together in this country, we have toyed with Unigov. We have toyed with all kinds of proposals that people bring. In Nigeria, they form two political parties, force people to join a queue to vote in the... all kinds of ridiculous things have happened in Africa. But it's not a listing of those ridiculous things. It's a way of moving forward. It's a way of specific suggestions. That's the way we can move this country forward. So it's not like I disagree with him at all. Though I appreciate that if you don't have the power to move things yourself,
okay,
but you have the mind, you have the to bring the suggestions. You should put the problems and the suggestions together.
All right. Thank you, Kweku Painso. Thank you. Kweku Painso, thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning. He's been sharing his thoughts, reflecting, ruminating on what Justice Atuguba has been sharing with my colleague Raymond Akwa. Well, before we get into our next conversation, and our next conversation, by the way, is going to be all about our brothers and sisters in those affected areas as far as the spillage of the Akosombo Dam is concerned. Today, we focused on their financial state. We focused on education. Today, we're focusing on health, how their health has been impacted. When I interacted with Maxwell Lukuto this morning, he was talking about the fact that even some of the water that some of them use to have their baths or to bathe is giving them irritations on the skin. How are we going to deal with the health complications, the bilharzia that he says has, broken out in some places there? We'll be bringing you that conversation up next with Bernice Abubedu-Lanta. But before I go, I'm going to be telling you what I'm going to be doing once I get off here. I'm going to find some Awake purified drinking water, because water is life. Awake is also premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. Now, Awake has the perfect sizes for all purposes. 330 500 ml bottles as well to fit your pockets and bags, 750 milliliters for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those like me who always want more. But if you're thinking of something that can work for you in your home or at your office, they also have 19-liter jar bottles, ideal for those situations. So what's your excuse now? All you must do is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember though, for every bottle you purchase, An amount is donated to the kitty of the National Cardiothoracic Center. That's the most heartwarming aspect for me, because guess what? These heart diseases and complications are difficult to treat. The cost. So by purchasing Awake purified drinking water, you put something in the kitty to save a life. Awake is another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just reach them on 0262 351 251. And do remember, this advert is FDA approved. When we return, the Akosombo Dam spillage, the affected areas on our radar. We'll be right back.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. And like Benjamin mentioned, our next conversation is going to focus on the Akosombo Dam spillage and its impact. And this time, we're not looking specifically to the floods alone, but the looming public health crisis. We know that officials have spoken about how we need to put immediate interventions in place, or else beyond the housing crisis, beyond displacement crisis, we're going to be dealing with a health crisis. This morning, I've been joined by Director of Public Health at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, AMA, Florence Kuchi. I'm sure you're wondering what the AMA has to do with this, because this is happening in the Volta region. But Madame Kuchi belongs to the Graduate Environmental Health and Sanitation Professionals Association, and they've done a good job in paying a visit to the area. She's been interacting with her colleagues there, and she's also got first-hand information about what the situation there is. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. You have visited the area, and we are sitting on a time bomb when it comes to a health crisis, right?
Sure. Yeah.
What did you observe?
So yesterday, myself and some association team members, we went to Sogakope to meet the Volta Regional Environmental Health Officer and her team members who are on the ground doing this tedious work on the ground to ensure that health promotion is gone deep down with the people. In fact, what we saw on the ground was very disheartening. Just around the Sopo, in front of the bridge, that place also got flooded. We went into a certain hospitality industry, and the whole place was taken off by water. All their septic tanks, everything was submerged by the water. And looking at the way those waters were looking, but the people still living around the area still goes there to fetch the water. In front of us, we have pictures and videos.
Wow.
We were standing there when the children, the adults were going in and out fetching the water.
What are they using?
So we tried to interview them what they were using the waters for. So they said they used to bath, they used to cook. So we asked them, so what do you drink? They said they drink sachet water. Don't you have pipe-borne water? So they said they ration the water every other 3 days. So water is life. So within the 3 days when there's no water, what do? We can't blame them. They need water to live. Yes. So they said they boil the water. Yes, after boiling, what next? This is the time we think as preventive practitioners. We need things like, let me say, aqua taps, chlorine tablets, so that we share among every household within all the affected areas. Not, some have not gone to the safe havens. They are still living within their places, because some feel that place is so crowded, we don't want to go, we still want. So this is the time we need to meet every household, distribute these items for them. Not only the aqua taps, they still need the filtration, the filters, yes, so that even after boiling the water, they can filter it for it to cool down. And some microorganisms at least will be dead before they drink the water.
Right. So they only boil the water.
Yes.
And they use it to bath and cook. Tell us the possible infections or possible health impact when they use these kinds of waters that have only been boiled.
So what we are having in our hands now is known as wash emergency. Okay. When we talk about worst emergency, we are talking about emergencies that comes us after a disaster. This is a disaster. Flood is a disaster. When there is flooding, diseases that can cause death most, according to WHO, in 2019, about 829,000 people died. And it was the cause of what? Poor wash facilities. Their water systems were altered with. Their toilet facilities were altered with. And what can they do? Water is life. They need to drink. They need to live. They still use some of these contaminated waters. Then diarrhea set in. Diarrhea is one of the serious cause of when there is such disasters. Then malnutrition is also another one. Because according to that research, 40% of the deaths were accounted for poor wash facilities and 80% for children under 2 years. And it was malnutrition. Children play, dirty hands, they come back. Even during such issues, mothers are so traumatized. So they don't even have time for what the child eats. Anything, the accounts will take pinting biadame. Yes. So I think these are some of the things. Diarrhea is looming. Cholera, let me say kudos to all the health promotion officers, especially environmental health officers, because that is our main mandate. We protect life, we promote health in the communities. They have tried their best. We are over 14 days now. We haven't yet recorded any cholera outbreak, and we are praying that we should not even record a cholera outbreak. But as for typhoid fever, there is no way we can do without it, because whatever it is, they are drinking the contaminated water, and this contaminated water are even mixed with fecal matters. And anybody who ingests fecal matter, the end results, if not diarrhea, cholera, typhoid is there. Yes.
Right. And you paint,
and even skin rashes are also there.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So you've assessed the situation. You've engaged with your colleagues who are there. Do you get a sense that we're on the right track to either mitigating or averting all these wash diseases you say are associated with disasters like we've seen?
Okay, so thank you. When it comes to the socio-economic aspect, we are on point.
Okay.
Yes, the socio-economic aspect, we are on point. But when it comes to the environmental aspect, there is still much to be done. As I said, the post-flood management is more important.
Right.
Because as and when the water settles, the place needs to be fumigated.
Okay.
Every day we are sending trucks full load of rice, oil, soap, mattresses, canned food, and all that. We are yet to see the environmental health tools that we will be using to avert the environment. Because if somebody eats, the person clothed, and the environment where the person is residing within is not safe, what next?
What are those? What are the kind
so
of tools?
Some of these tools we think they are very key, because the place needs to be continuously every week or twice a week for 3 months, so that we can be sure that we are safe. Things like mist blowers. We need a lot of mist blowers around all these areas. We know some waste management companies are doing some disinfection around the area, but they can't reach everywhere. The environmental officers within the communities knows everywhere. They are there every time. So if all districts are distributed with at least 5 mist blowers, then insecticide spray, then snake repellent. This morning I was reading, they said at the temporary clinics, snake bite has become prevalent, and it is not let me say something that is shocking. It is bound to happen when there is flood. A lot of living organisms move with the waters. Some were living in the water, some were living on terrestrial. So when the water has come to take over their habitat, they follow the water to anywhere, and they become very aggressive because they also want to live. So when they get to a human being, they think you are the cause. So whatever they can do, they will do. So we need snake repellents as much so that we can spray the areas. When we went yesterday, we saw some agencies distributed smart toilet facilities that they are sending it around. So these people, they need education, because when there are issues like this, there are 3 key things that we need to keep in place. So first and foremost is information. What is the information around the place? What is really happening? What do the people need? What can we do? Then we plan. During the planning, we come in with all health promotion and everything. Then we come in with the education. We need infographic educational material. This is not the time for long talk education. You show them the pictures. Madam, this is this. You see this one is like this. This one is like this. Don't do this, do this. When they see it, they tend to take it better than when you talk to them without seeing it. So all health promotion agencies that have some of these infographic educational material should please bring them out, because the post-flood management is also very, very, very key.
Yeah. Now, there have been criticisms about how this whole thing has been handled. People say there was not enough community engagement. The VRA has come with a response. There are also those who talk about waterways that have been taken over, no lack of dredging and all that. Before you respond to the issues, especially about the lack of dredging and what we know about the environmental factors that have also contributed to the stagnation of the water and its inability to flow, do you know if the environmental health officers in that region were aware of what was happening? Were there any, you've spoken about post-flood management, but were there any pre-engagement before the spillage and all that?
Sure. So, you know, first of all, I said in terms of this, we need first-hand information. So the first-hand information, when the dam was getting full, it will be they will spill it. I know they have environmental sustainable team within that area that goes round monthly or weekly to give information about what is happening at the dam. Yes, we are human beings. Human beings are always very slow to change. For instance, when we are in our comfortable zone, if you ask me to move, where do I move to? If there is, let me say, there were to be some houses somewhere that they have built somewhere and said, move to that place, everybody will be in a hurry to move to go and get a better place. But move to where? A camp. Now they are moving to the camp. What happened? It's a school. Maybe the toilet facilities that were found in that school is just for about 200 or 300 students. Now people more than 1,000 are going to fall on that same sanitation facility. Pressure. How are they going to use it? How are they even going to manage their waste? All these things are issues. What are the drainage, there's possible drainage systems that are going to be put in place to ensure that even when the water is being spilled, there are some drainage systems that the water will channel it through into the sea. Did we do all these things? All these things are part of the planning.
Were you aware are you aware if your colleagues in the Volta region were involved in all of this as environmental health officers?
Okay, so what I know is during the spillage, when they were forming the disaster management committee, so officers at these affected areas were part.
Okay,
yes.
So this was after the spillage started?
That is what I know.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about the water. There are those who have said that, look, the sea doesn't take certain volumes of water at a time. It will bring it back. You know, we had a caller calling in. I don't know about your knowledge in that, but there are also those in our engagement over the time. There was an MP who raised concerns about the people rejecting, and this was much earlier, a dredging project. They said that their oysters were going to be affected, and so they didn't allow the lagoon to be dredged. How do all these environmental factors, buildings that are not supposed to be where they are, trees that have been cut, you know, that may even block the flow and the intensity of the water's flow, how do all these things affect the situation?
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, let's ask ourselves, how old is the Akosombo Dam? Which people were managing the dam? How was it managed? How were they dredging the lagoon that it used not to have an issue? And what has changed now? What fuel were they using previously? And what fuel are they using now? that might have led to destruction of the ecosystem, the marine ecosystem, that the marine lovers has to take this issue to court. Now, maybe somebody has compromised the quality of fuel that they use to dredge, and the other the new fuel that they use now has something to affect the marine life. Maybe that could be the problem. I'm not an engineer in that as mechanical engineer, so I cannot talk much. But looking at our wetlands, there used to be so many wetlands with full of mangroves that these were the area that when these waters were being spilled, the water will settle there, and then it will be releasing bit by bit naturally into the system. But now, where are they? Most of the wetlands have been encroached because man think the land is for us. We can do anything. But we forget that man cannot cheat nature. When you cheat nature and you think you are smart, nature has its own way in paying you back. And when nature hates, it's disaster. And that is what we are seeing now. Yeah.
That's a very profound statement you make there. And so moving forward, this has already happened. Unfortunately, people have lost investment, huge investment. We've been speaking to farmers. Farmlands are all gone. Those who are into fish farming, people have lost fingerlings and all that. So it's quite an unpleasant thing. But we're looking at the way forward now. And there are those who said, we must learn from this. It should not be the annual thing. Also because we know that climate change is a big issue.
Sure.
The Vice President, when he visited the area, spoke about it. Now we are having a lot of heavy rains causing flooding upstream, which is leading to the Volta Lake overflowing, which feeds the dam, and then we need to spill because when the dam breaks, that's a bigger disaster on our hands. So, considering the fact that there's climate change to deal with, there's the human factor, taking over wetlands to deal with. This should take a national dimension, shouldn't it? We should have a more holistic approach to dealing with the problem because we cannot tell if there will be another spillage next year. What are your recommendations?
Okay, thank you. Disasters are unplanned for. That is why every country needs to have what we call a contingency plan. In every planning, you need to plan for unforeseen issues, natural disasters. So, kudos to some of the affected areas. We have seen that they are building resettlement areas for them to move to. If you want to resettle somebody, what do? You must find a way. I believe in when you want to enforce a law, provide an alternative so that when people refuse to follow that alternative, then you come in with the enforcement. And that one, nobody can say that you are going a wrong way. Some of the areas are there, I don't think people should go back. Okay. It's a no area. Okay. Especially those living around the cemeteries. Okay. Because cemeteries are being submerged. And when cemeteries submerge, sometimes we may not know, but loose graves, water can wash even bodies out and leave empty graves. Microorganism begins to multiply in a very high speed. That is why the stench is now coming out. They don't even have good air to breathe. It's also another thing. So we need to look at all these things. And then we put in a very permanent planning. If they are going to have a regional, that area where, for instance, every now and then we keep receiving such things. Those living around the lake from the north through to the Bono through to the Volta and through, they can come together and then have something like a joint contingency preparedness committee, so that they will allocate some form of budget for it. Then they sit down to plan. Initially I said there are 3 things we need to do, and if these 3 things are not done well, it will jeopardize everything. First is information. You need a first-hand information of what is going to happen if it is yet. If it has happened, what has happened? What are the risk factors? We shouldn't do discretionary things. We should think about the risk factors, the cost. Now look at the number of things that are going to this area. If this didn't happen, we could have used some of these things to do another economical development somewhere. But it has happened. Nobody calls for it, and it has come. And we are really sympathizing with. We are empathizing with them because we put ourselves in their shoes. So we don't want it to come. So we think the government should see this as a warning sign and get this joint contingency plan preparedness committee, get some form of allocated fund for them to sit down and plan of what to do, a permanent solution, so that we don't envisage such a thing coming again. Every year, Bagre Dam, we go there, we come back, we sit down, we are like the vultures. The vulture will say, after the rain, I'll build my house. After the rain, they forget to do it. So it shouldn't be. Yes.
In fact, when we spoke to some of the officials in the Pro East side, in the Bunu region, they actually told us that in one of the communities that was affected, they relocated there because the Volta Lake took over their lands. But now the lake is meeting them again. So they're actually suggesting that they should be moved to a permanent location where they don't have to return to those communities. But again, the question is at whose cost? 1. 2, just learning from that example of moving and the lake catching up with them. What is the possibility that it will not catch up with them again? What must be the learning for us? There are those who have said that there are scientific ways to go about this. We spoke about the Bagri Dam. The Palugu Dam was supposed to help in doing that, right? In catching and collecting those waters so that they don't destroy farms and property. We seem to know what to do, but we never do it. Is that not more of the case?
That is the case. And one thing too is, we are human beings. Everybody has a vocation that you depend on. We have fishermen, people who have their daily bread from the distance. During the Akosombo Dam building, to the best of my knowledge, I know they said a lot of them were compensated to move to higher heights. They were moved to higher heights. But tomorrow I need to come and fish around the riverbank. You come there, you put a shed there, you sleep. Before we realize, it becomes another settlement. And that is human being. Who enforces that it doesn't happen? Everybody has a role to play when it comes this way. This is not the time for blaming game. Because if you start blaming game, you will be hurting people the more. This is the time for looking for a solution. Let's think about how we can have big retention ponds somewhere to receive some of these waters. We are thinking about irrigation all year round. This can put people into job opportunities. There are a lot of people who want to go into farming around the northern sector. But the raining system around that is just a short period, so you can't do it. So if you are able to get big dams around where the lake is passing through, just like the Palgu Dam, it is a lake that they also had to do something. So if the Palgu Dam is able to be dredged and then worked, that's what I'm saying. If they are able to work on it, because we heard that they were working on it. So if it is true, they work on it, it will receive a huge portion of water. Irrigation pumps can be channeled to it. It can lead to, a job creation, nutritional improvement, and everything. Yes.
I have a few minutes to go, but this time round, I want you to address the people who are affected by this. I know a lot of them watch us here on Joy News. Just a few tips for them to avoid being victims of any outbreak.
Okay.
The few tips you have to share with them on how to manage themselves, manage the situation they are in so that their health is preserved.
So what I'm going to tell the affected area, the people there will be that, 1, they should ensure that anything that they touch, even their toilet facility, how they manage it, they should minimize with more touch in the toilet first that they are using. When you visit the toilet and you come, try to wash your hands with soap and water. We need sanitizers. Try to sanitize your hands. The children who play, they should ensure that they pay more attention to the children, because when they play and come, they need to see to it that they wash their hands. During COVID, people were dying for sanitizers, but now when you even give sanitizer to somebody, they don't want. But this is the time they need to have sanitizers along with them. They should also ensure that the water that they drink, even if it is a borehole water, they should try to boil it. That is one. That is what they can do. And we also plead with benevolent societies that are donating that. They shouldn't just send only food items and water. They should also send some of these chemicals that we can use to sterilize the water for them to drink. That one is also another key thing. So we should find a hand washing stand somewhere, all areas, so that we used to do during COVID, because it will also help to bring down any form of outbreak that we are anticipating.
I appreciate your time and your help so much. Florence Kuchi is Director of Public Health at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. She's also part of the Ghana Environmental Health and Sanitation Professionals Association. And together with some of her colleagues, they visited affected areas flooded as a result of the spillage of the Akosombo Pond dams. Oh, you also donated? Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, God bless you for doing that.
We just didn't go. We
public
donated
about
after
that interaction with your colleagues. All right, thank you so much. Bless you. So, I mean, for those of you who are thinking to support communities affected by the flooding, not only in the Volta region, but in the Pru areas, the Savannah areas, don't just go with food, mattresses. Those are essential, but also you can take hand sanitizers along. You can take some of these chlorine tablets that our people need to sterilize water so that it's safe for them.
Filtration materials.
Right, filtration materials as well. So you can also get in touch with any health officer in your area to find out how best you can help in terms of mitigating or averting a public health crisis as a result of these floods. This is the AM show. When I come back, I will be speaking to reps from an educational institution to tell us more about that. Do stay. Hey there, it's me again. Thank you for staying here on the AM show. Now it's now time to tell you about a very wonderful initiative by one man, which has led to young people in the northern part of the country getting quality education. I'm talking about the 7A's College of Science and Technology located in Yendi. The school is 10 years old, and this morning I've been joined by its founder, Nathaniel Adam Jr., and the General Secretary of the Alumni, Aurelia Asitek. It's good to have you here, gentleman and lady. I'm excited whenever we talk about education because we are all about making impact, here on the Joy News channel. Let me start with you, Mr. Adams, because this is a privately run school, right?
Yes, it is a privately run school.
School in Yendi.
In Yendi.
What led to the creation of the school? What inspired you? Because I know you're not from Yendi. Usually when you have people, deciding to put up a school like this that serves a certain rural community, they're either from that place or, they have certain links with the place. So tell me how you made a decision to start the school.
Okay, so I thank you for the opportunity. I work with Rural Water and Development Program Ghana, providing rural communities with water and sanitation services and facilities. And so this is what sent me to the north, and I have been around the north for close to 25 years now. Over the years, there's been a major challenge that I have lived through personally and witnessed, a challenge of not existing health workers. I mean, they are just not available. Doctors are not there, nurses are not there. You want to find out why they refuse posting. They don't want to just come there. And so that has been a major challenge. So 10 years ago, I think this about 12 years ago, I was in a discussion with the then regent of Dagbon when the issue of health and nurses not available, and no one wants to accept posting. So if no one wants to accept posting, how do you solve that problem? Because I'm there and I'm living. Then I have done over 10 years. And so if I fall sick, that's where I'll be at. And so there was a challenge. And the solution to that challenge was to be able to find a way to produce the health workers, the nurses and doctors and everything from within the rural setup so that they can come and serve their people. This was the initial problem that we seek to solve. And it is in solving that we realize that, one, you need to get a good grade to become, to go to the medical school or to do nursing. You need to get a good grade to go to a good high school to qualify to go. You need to get, so the process is basic education. And so we set out to set up 7A College of Science and Technology, which is A. Adams, 7 Adams, 7A College of Science and Technology, to be able to raise children from within the enclave. And then now it's the whole 5 northern regions, to raise them, train them, prepare them in the sciences, and then monitor, follow them through high school to college, and ensure that they go through and we achieve the purpose for which we set up the school.
So this is
the
primarily
motivation.
A junior high school that affords science and technology education. I must say, watching that video is very impressive, and the kind of facilities you have there and the way your classrooms look, this is very impressive. Now, there's also the issue about poverty. It's not something we like to talk about, but it's the unfortunate reality of the gap, the widening gap when you come to the south and then you go to visit our brothers in the north. How do you keep the school running? Do the students have to pay? Are there scholarship opportunities? I can even see that you have boarding facilities as well. How do you do this?
Well, the school is a non-profit.
Okay.
First, they pay some fees. Of course, it's not able to take care of them. But we have a system in place that ensures that they're very poor. And so we practice the barter system, for instance, over there, where a parent who cannot pay physical cash, a farmer wants to bring the child, you have a bag of maize or something, you provide it. But it's purely been service. Okay, so service sent me to the north, provide water for the poor. And then another challenge came up. So it's been service. So we rely on partners, we raise supports, and then the parents who can afford also afford. They pay some fees. Right. But of course, there are several measures put in place to ensure that everyone in the target gets that opportunity.
Ms. Adam, I'll come to you shortly, but let me talk to Aurelia. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
So you completed when?
2017.
2017, and went on to which high school?
I went to St. Roses Senior High School.
Oh, that is impressive, because I know St. Roses is a very good school. What informed your decision to go to 7A's College?
Okay, so I heard of 7A's College of Science and Technology from a friend, and it was quite impressive to find out that there was a school in the north that was concerned about science. And so I thought about it being a good opportunity to actually develop myself in that direction. And so that's why I went to 7A's College of Science and Technology.
I'm just curious, what are you doing now? Where are you? Okay. What are you pursuing?
Yeah, right now I'm in KNUST and I'm reading telecommunications engineering.
Oh, that's impressive. I have goosebumps all over me. That's impressive. So how did the school impact you? What would you say your attendance at 7A's gave you that put you, at the edge to be able to get to where you are now?
Okay, so 7A's College of Science and Technology was concerned about our development academically. And it is quite impressive to say that I'm not the only outstanding student of 7A's College of Science and Technology. I have my mates with me who are also excelling in various fields. And this is because the school was very concerned about how we excelled in academics. Yes, and it is quite impressive to see that the founder and his relatives are not natives of the north, but they put us first and they brought us this far, and so they have really developed us to excel academically.
Wow. So what's the big dream? Telecoms engineering. What are you hoping to do with that?
Yes, so I'm interested in cybersecurity. So even as time goes on, I want to enter the cybersecurity world to be able to help us to
I'm super impressed. I'm just excited. And this is, Aurelia is just one example of a life that has been transformed, a life that has been given hope because you made a decision and you followed through with action. It's been 10 years of doing this. What would you say has been your most significant accomplishment and what brings you the most joy?
My first batch of students have completed university this year. Those who are doing medicine have a year or two to do. And for the first 4 batches of students, I have about 95% of them in the universities pursuing pure science or science-related courses, 95%. Wow. And when I say I'm talking about the engineers, the doctors, the nursing, even those 5 that are not doing strict science are excelling. And so I would say for the first 4 badges, we would have about 3% who for some reason have not yet entered into the university. But it's a 100% thing. Everyone who goes into 7As is followed through and goes into the university. And so we have all manner of engineers, architectural, electrical, mechanical, everything coming from that part of the country. And that is what makes me happy that we have been able to prove that it can be done. Okay, we've been able to prove that it can be done, and giving equal opportunities, more kids everywhere can excel. Because if you have an institution where from junior high school you have monitored and followed and ensured, and you have over 95% of the first 4 badges from level 400 to 100 in the universities, all of them. It's a motivation. That is just the single thing that makes me happy that for my first batch are coming out of the university this year.
How many students did you start with? How many do you have now?
We started with 18 students. Currently, we have a total of 76. But the full capacity, it's 25 per class maximum. So the full capacity of the school, it's 180.
Okay.
You don't
want to go beyond that standard.
Yeah, you want to. I mentioned it's charity. It's been service. You want to manage with what you can. Yeah. You can take care of.
But technically, what it means is that you have more space, right, to take.
Oh yeah, we sit on a 36-acre land, and so we have space. But
now I'm talking in terms of the numbers, because you say you have 70 now, but you can cater for 180 students.
Yes, we have 170. The school capacity, as in full class, is 180.
Okay.
And we have 176.
Oh, you have 176 students currently. Yeah, that's good. But talking about the space, what's the big dream? Do you hope to, or you just want to stick with the junior high school, or do you want to go beyond and probably in the future, as you celebrate 10 years, I'm sure there's a lot of ideas going through your mind. There are people watching us who like to help people like you. That's why I just want to find out from you. Do you have a dream of going to senior high school education?
So the name of the school, it's a college.
Okay.
We set out right from the word go to produce our own doctors.
Okay.
We want to have a system that will produce science. And so we said the goal final is a 3-phase goal. We are just in the first phase.
Okay.
Is to have a college.
Right.
A college that will produce a science-based college in the northern sector of the country, just a pure science-based college. That's where we seek to get to finally, but we are on the path going.
And Aurelia, let me just find out from you. What do you think makes what you got at Costech, 7A's Costech, different? Because you say they were so interested in your academics. How did you realize that?
Okay, so previously, before I went to 7A's College of Science and Technology, no one really cared about how much I studied, what I was producing, because once you go to school, that is everything. But this was a place where even after school hours, you have teachers who are finding out what progress are you making, what challenges are you facing, where can I help you? And even there were times where I slacked academically, and it was quite amazing to find out that they cared about why I was slacking and trying to get me back on board.
So it was more about your welfare, your general well-being.
Yes.
I'd like you to speak to your friends, and colleagues in the north who are hoping to, get a good education. Tell them why they should go to 7A's Costic.
Okay, so 7A's College of Science and Technology is an amazing school in the northern part of Ghana, Yendi, in Kuga specifically, yes. And I think that this school has groomed a lot of us, has nurtured a lot of us to come out excellently. And so it will be a very, very good decision you would be making if you decide to come to 7A's College of Science and Technology. And even to our parents out there, I think it is a very good decision if you bring your wards to the school, because this is a place where they will be groomed and formed to be responsible people in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aurelia. And finally to you, Mr. Nathaniel Adams Jr. What different thing do you do in terms of your curriculum structure that focuses on science and tech? Because I know how, junior high schools are run across the country. You have the general, courses that are run. So what do you specifically do that helps your students on that scientific path?
Okay, so besides the normal GES curriculum for junior high school, we are practical. Okay. And when we say practical, the science is taught practical. Experiments, children right from the 7th grade, they do practical science experiment. They teach subjects with practical skill. And then we also do a lot of, we do fish farming in the school, smoke weaving, skill development, so everything creative. You understand? So out of that practicality is what we develop the interest of the children. And let me tell you, I entered a classroom and they were treating energy, kinetic energy and potential energy, which I did in technical school so many years. I never really even understood the whole thing. And what is that? They say energy. What is it? Potential and kinetic. Oh, uncle, you don't know it. And these are my kids. They call me Uncle Nat. Uncle, you don't know it. Then one of them stood up and picked a balloon, blew air into the balloon, and then held them up and said, "This is potential energy. There is air in it. It is energy, but it is potential." Then he left the balloon, he started going. He said, "Now it is kinetic, it is working." Right. That is how the teaching is. Right. So it is practical. You get to understand it and you love it at that level.
Interesting. So, Aurelia, how are we celebrating 10 years of Costic? Tell me, what's the plan? So that all your friends who are watching would keep it in mind and join in the celebrations.
Okay, so like our founder said, the school is about charity giving. So even in celebration of these 10 years of excellence, we've gone out to help the community. So we've done community service. We went out to help the students in various schools, seeing where we could help them to also excel, because that is what we are concerned about. Yes. And so we want to make sure that even as we are celebrating 10 years, we are not just concerned about ourselves, but we are also giving to the society. And so I'll entreat everyone to be a part of this celebration and to support, because this is a school that is not benefiting from this whatever is going on. Okay. So I think that the government should also support the school, because leaving it on one man will not lead us to where we are looking forward to. So we should all come on board to make sure that whatever the plan is, it is achieved.
Right. Any final words?
Well, I want to thank the chiefs and people of the North. I'm a Ghan and a Fanti. I don't come from the North. And you would not be able to, no matter how good your intentions are, if you are not received by the people. I have been very well received. I see the North as a home. I see myself as a Northerner, and so I will take this opportunity. And it's a school for the chiefs. Okay. It's more of traditional school, the chiefs and people, and so the luncheon was done by the overlord of Dagbon. The Yana did a luncheon. Starting it was by the now Yona, the regent then of Dagbon. So it has been a chief traditional thing. So I want to thank the chiefs and people of Dagbon and thank the Adams family, my family that has been behind me in this journey of producing this, and the people together that we've been able to build this.
And I think one person you forgot to thank was yourself. Thank you. Let me say thank you for following through with the dream, and thank you for making it possible for young people like Aurelia to pursue their dreams. This is exciting. I'm telling you, I don't want to end the conversation. I wish we could go on and on and on, but time is not on our side. So if you want to contact 7A's College of Science and Technology, how do we do it? Are you on social media?
We have our website is Northern
College of Science and Technology.
That's the website.
So yes, Northern College
of Science and Technology. So please, you can reach out to Adams. If you love what he's doing, he's ever ready to listen to you, and would also be grateful that you could help them support these young. This is amazing. This is phenomenal. What you're seeing on your screen, people pay not only in CDs, but in dollars to access that kind of education here in Accra. Thank you once again. Nathaniel Adam Jr. is founder of 7A's COSTECH, and Aurelia Asetek is General Secretary of the Alumni. And it has been my conversation about the 10th anniversary celebration, helping build children of excellence from the northern part of the country. Now, your favorite TV game show in Ghana, Step Up, is back with another amazing season. This time, you're stepping up with Synex Tank. Step Up with Synex Tank will see contestants answer trivia questions to win cash prizes of 400 CDs up to over 6,000 CDs weekly, and other products from our sponsors. This season, you viewing at home should watch out for the Synex Tank question of the week. Be the first to answer correctly via WhatsApp or SMS, and the number is 0508338888 to win incredible prizes from our sponsors. The person who answers most of the weekly questions fastest gets a 65-inch Samsung television at the end of the season. Step Up with Synex Tank, a unique television experience. Step Up with Synex Tank is sponsored by Bell Eyes, MTN Momo, and Angel Cola. Now, no matter your water needs, Synex Tank has it all. It's the first to produce double-layer tanks, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Synex Tank is the first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. They now introduce to you the customer specs order, which lets you order any color or size of preference. Synex Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, please choose Synex Tank. They have agents nationwide, so you can call 0244335168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Synex Tank, a strong, a tough. We'll take a quick breather now. We'll bring you more shortly. Grateful that you could stay here on the AM show. It's now time to get interactive with you. The numbers to call 030-221-691, 030-221-691. And do well to call. Just go ahead and share your thoughts with us. We've been discussing quite a lot today, talking about Justice Atuguba, the former Supreme Court Justice, talking about the appointment of judges into the judiciary. It talks about it being done on merit and not any other political consideration. He's been also talking about the Jachikwesin case, and he thinks that the Supreme Court's decision is scandalous. We've been hearing from lawyer Paintsill, but this has been generating a lot of conversation on social media. So I'd love to hear what you think about it. We've also been talking about the situation in parts of the Volta and Eastern regions as a result of that spillage of the Akosombo and Pong dams, and what the looming public health crisis is. We've been talking about finding solutions. You can also share your thoughts about that. And then we've just been having a bit of an interaction with a school that is doing something phenomenal in the northern part of the country. So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Quite a lot also on what's happening with the Ghanaian's funeral in the papers. Basically, all I'm trying to say is whatever your thoughts are, if there's anything we discussed during the newspaper review that you'd like to share your thoughts with us, we'll gladly take it. Mohammed is our first caller from Techiman. Hello, Mohammed. How are you? What are your thoughts?
I'm doing well, Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. Please share your thoughts.
Yes, It's been. I'll talk about the Volta issue, the issue.
Right.
And I think it's very pathetic, and it's very something that we all have to contribute to see to the plight of the people. In fact, I only have an issue too about the minister's comment on them. I think that the minister didn't measure what he said, because
you mean the sanitation minister?
The sanitation minister.
Right.
Because in fact, looking at the village, and you ask them that to sort of leave their places. Have you created any place for them to go and stay? Now the people have left the places. All right. In this village, we've not recorded a single death as a result of the village. So it's not about them not living. They have left the place, but now they don't have places to live. So it is incumbent on the government to look at how am I going to house these people, and not to be blaming them for not to leave, that they should leave, they should have left earlier on. They have left time in, because no deaths have been recorded on this. So why do we blame the people again? Now the water have taken over their houses. What is it that we have to do? I think that's where she should have moved Ghanaian, so that we all look at it that it's a national issue, and not to some kind of blame these people. It's quite embarrassing for something like that to happen.
Thank you, Mohammed, for sharing your thoughts. Mohammed is calling from Tichiman. Do you also have something to share with us? Would gladly hear it and share it with the rest of the world. You can call us on 0302 211 691, 0302 211 691. Or you can leave us a comment on Facebook. We are very interactive there as well. The name is John News on TV. And also is the same name you find us with on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter. Would gladly take your thoughts. And I see that many of you have been sharing your comments on some of the stories we've been airing. All right. We have Efriye from Adei. Hello, Efriye.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you? Please go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, please. I would like to share my thoughts.
Please go ahead.
Please, this place has caused a lot of things though. But we're just looking up to the government to help in this place.
Okay, you are at Adei, right? So it means you're affected.
Yes, please.
Right. Tell me how you're coping as we speak.
You said?
How are you coping?
I'm not coping though, but I'm just trying to let the people know that God is in control and everything is going to be all right.
Is your home flooded?
Please, no.
Okay, all right. So you're safe. You're just sending, messages of comfort to the people who are affected. Yes, thank you so much, Efriye. Efriye is calling us from Adei, and he just has a message for all of you who are affected by the flooding situation. And I see a message from Ralph, who's talking about the estuary being blocked, and he's also talking about the rise in the sea level, and talks about the amount of river water that can move into the sea at a moment, creating floods upstream. So keep your comments coming through. You can also call us on 0302 211 691. What are your thoughts today? We've been discussing the comments made by the former Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Tuguba, on the appointment of judges and the Supreme Court's decision on the Jachikwason case. We've also been talking about floods in the Volta and parts of the eastern region as well, and also Pru East and others, and talking about how we can avert a looming health crisis. Richard from Fumbisi is our next caller. Hello, Richard. Kindly share your thoughts.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Please, since the flood started, I think from the VRA side and NADMO side,
right,
the excuses they've been giving is that we did simulation exercise with the community. I want to know what exactly is a simulation exercise. In my understanding, a simulation exercise is an initiation of a situation. To take, for instance, take the people through how they will feel, how things will be, and how they can escape in the event that there is flood. But the point is, when you were about to open the valve, did you go there to, hey, get up, let's go? The exercise we were preparing you for, the event is happening, so let's go. Did they do that? You see, you can't take me through a simulation exercise a month ago, 2 months ago, and you expect that either through wizardry or witchcraft, I will know that 3 months later the water will come, and so I would have left my dwelling. What they needed to do was that when they were prepared to open the valve, maybe in a week's time, you go to the community with security, with media at least, so that people will get to know that, hey, a week's time, this is what is going to happen. And so that if people still resisted it, at least you can have a point. But you were just training the people, oh, when the flash can do this. Then all of a sudden you open the water to them and oh, there was simulation exercise. What kind of excuse is that? Thank you very much.
Thank you also for calling. Richard from BC, clearly upset about the whole situation. I mean, you can understand his concerns. There are many people who are incensed as well. A lot of blame has been put at the doorstep of VRA for failing to do more in regards to preparing the people who will be affected enough about what was yet to come. But as it is, we already have the situation on our hands, and what we want to do is to prevent it from complicating further. And that's why we've been having a conversation about a public health crisis. John from Akachi has joined the conversation. Ketakrachi, rather. Hello, John. How's Ketakrachi this morning? Let's hear what you have to say.
Hello, good morning. We are doing well at Ketakrachi. Yeah. In fact, I've been following the spillage of the dam since day one. And in fact, when you look at how the people are suffering and the excuses our leaders are giving it to us, it doesn't match up. Please, what we are saying is people are suffering. People's lives are in danger. Look, they are drinking water which has been contaminated with the toilet and the mortuary, the dead bodies. People are drinking this kind of water. Their skins they are getting rashes. All sorts of illness have broke up over there. What are they saying? Classrooms. There's no net. There's no mattresses. And all what we say is we are taking care of them. Is it taking care of them? Please. We are begging the state institutions. We are begging the government. We are begging all the individuals that they can be of help. They are our people. They are Ghanaians. See, when it happens elsewhere, Ghana will go and donate something in the name of Ghana. That it has happened here. When a Israel war happened, we Africa. Ghana is the first country to trade. And what happened here? We are begging the nation, the leaders. This one is not about any CNP or any political system. Because the people that have been affected are neither NDP or NPP. Please, we are begging them. They should come to their aid because they are also human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John from Ketakrachi. I think we'll have time to pick 1 or 2 more calls. So if you're planning to make a call, kindly do so now. The number to call 030 2211 691 030 2211 691. And obviously it's expected that a lot of you are interested in the humanitarian crisis in parts of the Volta in the eastern region. We have another caller from Jabala. Is it John? How are you, John? And what are your thoughts this morning?
We are having this problem because we have been putting round pegs in square holes. This is the result we are saying now. Thank you.
Right. John, is that all you want to say? Hello, John?
Hello?
You said we are putting what? Round pegs in square holes. Okay, can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on that?
Because most of the people, they are not qualified. The
people
where?
The people
where? The people at the helm of affairs. They should have come to the estuary and see how the sea will absorb the water before they do the spillage. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your thought. Very brief and concise there. That will be our last caller. Do I have time for another call? Okay, I can squeeze in one call. And so I don't know who the chosen one will be, but if you're still thinking about calling. All right. Fred from Angloga is that chosen one as my last caller. Fred from Angloga, let me hear you, please.
Yes, good morning. My name is Fred Chidi. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, Mr. Chidi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm calling from my home village in Angloga in the Volta region, the Volta South. I think for some reason we tend to neglect that is the area between Adei through Strongby, Angloga, Keta, all the way to Aflau. The whole place is inundated as a result of the spillage. Okay. It looks like there is the attention is rather on the upstream, that is the Tong to Mepe area. And I think that we need to refocus because this area is lying between the sea and the Keta Lagoon.
Right.
And economic activity is virtually non-existent because the farmlands have all gone. The sea itself, the tidal waves have eroded the whole of the place. So it's just a single stretch of land between Adei and Keta. And the people are really, really struggling. And this is why Hubertus is supposed to be next week. And so I think that there must be some focus, some shift in attention to this area as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling, Mr. Chidi, and thank you for drawing our attention to that. And I must say, Mr. Chidi is not the only one who's raised issues about this, so we'll do well to also get our lenses and our focus in those other parts of the Volta region that have been affected. In fact, I remember the first conversation I had on the floods. I spoke to Madame Ablajifa Gomashi, who is MP for one of the Ketu constituencies, and we deliberated a lot on that. So thank you for your comments, Fred, and be assured that we haven't left you out of these conversations. And that'll be it for this edition of the AM show. I'm excited that you made time to join us this morning. Benjamin and I will be back tomorrow with another edition of the show that puts you at the heart of everything that we discuss. I am Bernice Abubedu Lansa. Do stay with us here on Joy News. We are your most credible news source. Up next is News Desk. Do stay for details.